up, y'all? Kofi Kingston here, and I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks, depending on what that drink is, preferably non-alcoholic, you know?
How's it going, Celtic Warrior Shaman?
Soda.
I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Maple syrup.
Fella.
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Welcome to Wrestling on the Rocks, the dive bar of the IWC, where every show is our first show, and this show will be no different. Guys, I'm at Ref Marsh. We're at WTR the show. With me today, as per usual, we got Mr. Sportsbeard. Say what's up, man.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Nice. It's the audio is like so crisp right now that I was like afraid that I had you guys muted still. And with us, special guest, JustinTime 211, fresh off his debut podcast, a true episode 1 In Time Wrestling podcast. Justin, say what's up.
What up? What up? It's me. It's JIT, one half of the newly christened In Time Wrestling podcast. Thank you to everybody who's given it positive feedback. Glad you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you're partnering up with a bit of a stranger, right? It's your brother?
Yeah. I was amazed that he even actually hopped on with me. Like, I was surprised, but he was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm like, then let's just go with it.
You're like, hell, well then let's do it.
Makes it even better though. I'll take it.
Is he a big wrestling fan or?
Yes.
Oh,
he's
awesome.
in our chat a lot. He comes through our chat a lot.
What's his name?
Jeremy In Time.
Oh,
Bishop forced him to change it to that because it was just like, he was like, it fits. That's it. I'm like,
yeah,
you're going to have to do it now.
And I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think he does typically pop into our Thursday show just a little bit more often than this one. Especially when he's, as far as being vocal goes, but yeah, if I'm super knowledgeable guy.
It's because he mainly watches Smackdown. He doesn't really watch Raw that often anymore. So.
Well, maybe he can do like Splinter Fox and start checking out our show so he doesn't have to watch Raw. We'll just give him better recaps.
The dive bar of the IWC is better to freaking listen to than most people.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, I'm going to start off real quick with a little something what's in my glass. I'm having Pendleton whiskey, sponsored, not sponsored, which we're going to talk about here in a second as well. Mr. Beard, what's in your glass?
I don't know if you can see, and the light's a little bright there. Some liquid death, which is just water in a can, baby.
Can water. Can do. Love it. They have some that are carbonated, right? And some that are not.
They do make a seltzer water one too. I think the can is black. I fucking hate seltzer water, but Stephanie drinks it quite a bit. But she hasn't had any of the liquid death stuff. Honestly, this can is too big. Because usually she mixes it with something else. Champagne.
Water?
Yeah, the seltzer water
with something else?
She mixes seltzer water, which is basically like carbonated water. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah. I got you.
Champagne cocktail, buddy.
All right.
You got to know the foo-foo. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad. Justin, what do you got over there?
We've got Code Red today.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I would have been disappointed if it wasn't Mountain Dew, Justin.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to throw you off one time when I'm on here. Next time I ever come on with you, I'm going to throw you off completely. I'm going to be like, I've got.
Yeah.
And just see what the hell happens.
If
like
it's
a big
Mountain
jar
Dew,
of Sun tea. I made it myself.
It'll be the one day that I pull up with a bottle.
a Mountain Dew Slurpee would just take me back to like high school days, man. Because they didn't have any of this fucking energy drink shit when I was going through high school. The only thing they had that was like double the caffeine was Jolt Cola, and that shit was horrible. It was terrible. It was like Coke on steroids, and it was not good. But there was no Red Bull or Rock Stars or anything like that. And there was no different flavors of Mountain Dew either. There was just Mountain Dew. I think the Code Red might have come out around then. But it was.
I think the Code Red was about a year away from when they stopped doing the slushy. But I agree, dude. I mean, I only say that just because I remember having a shitload of the slushy, but that also could have been because my job had it, and then they got rid of it.
The only reason sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. The only reason I ever had the slushy is I had a friend in high school who worked at the town pump, which was a gas station in Polson, Montana, called the Town Pump, and he worked the graveyard shift, and I would hang out with him and read all the magazines, the Wizards and comic book stuff, and drink Mountain Dew slushies like this all night and stay awake with him. And then we're all like zombies mopping the floor at like 6 a.m. And then, you know,
So
I
dope.
did it.
So dope.
Yeah.
I had it at my job and they got rid of it, and I was like, why would you get rid of it? And it was a discovery zone, and the person was like, well, parents don't want their children to have that much caffeine. And I was all like, but I drank it every day. And he goes, as a company, I don't think we want our employees to have that much caffeine.
Well, imagine.
Because it's like you said, it was so strong.
Well, but imagine too, you bring your kids to Discovery Zone to get them all wore out, and they come out of there even more wired than they went in. So that probably destroyed their business model. That's why Discovery Zone isn't around anymore.
Oh yeah. They're like, shit.
These kids are tired. What the hell?
Let's start off with a couple of birthday wishes. I know producer lady's not here quite yet, but she loves to do the birthday wishes, and I do too. To be honest, the original iteration of Jim Ross's podcast, The Ross Report, he always went through and talked about birthdays, and it was something that for whatever reason I really attached onto, and was so disappointed when they didn't bring it to the new one. So I want to make sure we throw it in there when we can. But Tamina had a birthday just a couple days ago. So
Awesome.
Happy birthday and cheers to Tamina. Our resident artist, the one who made well, I say resident, I'm the resident artist, but the commissioned artist that we have for our animated versions of us, Sportsbeard famously talked about for a bit, Lucas. It's his birthday today. So happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday, Lucas.
He's
Very
amazing.
cool.
He's been good to us for a long time. He does fantasy art for, the art that he does is typically for D&D. And he did a bunch for Dimension 20 and their campaigns. And so he's used to doing like real fantasy and outlandish things. And when I reached out to him, I was like, look, I know this doesn't seem to be like quite your thing, but I got a group of real people that I'd like to have some animations of, drawings of. And he dove into it, and he said he had so much fun. It was nothing like he'd ever done before. And every time that I get a new person on and I end up reaching out to him, he just is so excited and jumps right on it. He's just a good dude.
Yeah, they're really cool. I love it. It's like my favorite thing. It will be my icon until I am not alive anymore. So
I'm so upset because, well, when I cut my hair, producer lady was really pushing me to cut my hair, and I was all like, look, there's a big part of me that doesn't want the drawing to not be accurate. I don't know if I want a new drawing yet. So, but yeah, I was like, I can't rebrand now, but we did it. Here we are. And then two would-be birthdays of a few wrestlers who had passed away, but today they would have had a birthday, celebrated one. But Luna Vachon and Big Dick Dudley from ECW, both of them, but their birthdays too. So cheers to them.
cheers.
Let's see. Before we get into some of the fun stuff, oh, you know what? Before we get into the fun stuff, Bob Saget passed away, and I didn't want to ignore that entirely.
Oh man, with
That was
Betty
a hit.
White too. Did Betty White? I think Betty White died since our last show too. Correct? Oh no, we talked about Betty
we
the
talked
last.
about it. Yeah, but it was only like 2 weeks later, a week later, and yeah, it was. Man,
Yeah, Bob Saget, 65.
yeah,
Died in his
it was
sleep.
wild.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, from what I even hear, there's no even iota of speculation of any kind of drug or alcohol issue whatsoever. And I even reached out to a friend of mine who does comedy out in LA, and I was like, was that even ever a problem with him? And he's, without hesitation, no, he was not like that. Just makes it's just confusing, but it always will be.
One video I will tell people they should go out and look for is an interview he did with a local Jacksonville station, which is where he did his last show on January 8th. Because he died on the 9th. The guy went to college with him, Temple University, which is in Philadelphia, if you're not familiar. And they were reminiscing, and the guy was very self-deprecating that there was no way Bob would remember him, and he remembered him, and they were going to reconnect. And it was a really good interview, just kind of showed the type of person that he is, and nobody had a bad word to say. It was like Betty White. Betty White was in the business for for 70 years, basically, and no one had a bad word to say about her. And the same thing with Bob Saget. I told my wife, the thing that's so upsetting is that we're losing all these good people. Why can't some of the assholes die?
Well,
Like, I would just like, some of these assholes need to fucking die. Like, let's not have the Bob Saget stuff. You know, it's so sad to see these people that were, I mean, I watched Full House when I was a kid. That show was on. Like, I never knew he was a comic. And you know where his first show was? PJ's in Anchorage, Alaska, which was a strip club known for its darts. So it was not a good strip club. Anyway, rest in peace, Bob Saget.
Yeah, and he had a few things wrestling related. I forget why it was. He did some indie show. Gabe Sapolsky booked a show that he was on trying to put over a young Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, back in his first run. I saw a little bit of a clip of him doing a special where he was talking to Roddy Piper about the similarities between wrestling and comedy. And I don't know, man. He seemed to have a ton of respect for the business too, which is cool because there's a lot of people in show business who do not look, and especially not at that time when those videos were even being made. Wrestling was not seen that way. So, I mean, yeah, he was America's dad. He was one of us. He was one of the good ones. And it's always, to me, as a wrestling fan who's been ridiculed for it for a very long time, it's always that much sweeter when you see somebody who's got respect for the thing that you love too and be like, there's just no flaw here. He was perfect. So, yeah. Rest in peace, tears in our beers to Bob Saget. Yeah, I never missed a show of Full House. What were you about to say, Beard?
I was just going to say the other thing I would say is Jimmy Kimmel did a pretty cheerful tribute to him and talked about how he was like the nicest guy in Hollywood, like just one of the nicest people. Talked about, I don't know if you knew, John Stamos was on the show with him, and John Stamos was notoriously friends with Don Rickles, a famous comedian that lived a long time, and so was Bob. And they did a tribute talking about Don a little bit on Jimmy's show after he passed. And he gives you about a minute of that, but he's a blubbering mess, like Jimmy Kimmel is, like, because that's how, thought of he was. So it is one of those things where it's like, sorry to see him go, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Justin, anything you want to say on that before we move on?
I mean, I grew up watching Full House when I was younger. It was just such an awesome show. I wish I'd have got to see like his stand up, like more. I'm gonna try to do some more digging. That was like how when I grew up with like George Carlin, and I didn't know anything about his stand up until I went back and watched it, and I'm like, I love his fucking stand up so much.
I saw Carlin. He was incredible.
Jealous.
Yeah, he's one of the greats. Yep.
Yeah. But just wild, unfortunate. I mean, at least the positive of even the Betty White story and the Bob Saget story was here are two people who were very beloved, but they also very much knew it. Like, it's just kind of a reminder of how important it is to let people know how much they mean to you and appreciate them. And when I think about it too, like when I was living in New York, I tried not to bother celebrities much when I saw them because it comes up kind of a lot. But every now and again, there was somebody who had such an impact in my life at some point that I found it impossible not to go to them and let them know how appreciated they were. And I never asked for anything. I didn't want an autograph. It's not about a photo. It was just, I just need to throw this at you real quick. You just have to know that what you did means something and matters, and you're an important person to me. And so do that. You know what I mean? When you got the opportunity, do it. Don't make people feel like you're trying to take something from them. Let's see. Real quick, I'm just going to toss this in, and we're going to move on pretty quick because some people were asking me about it, and it's definitely come out. MLW filed a lawsuit against WWE about, it looks like it's under antitrust, something to do with their streaming rights. We're just not versed enough in the lawsuit to begin with, legal aspects of it, secondary. And I think that this is a one of those topics that you let experts and lawyers weigh in on. And how can I have an opinion on a lawsuit? You know what I mean? It just seems weird and fishy for someone to ask my opinion to weigh in on a legal suit that has just begun. I don't know. When it's all said and done, I'd be happy to say what I felt about finding out one way or the other. But as it goes, all right, well, let's see how it plays out and take it from there. Like, this isn't exactly the steroid trial where you could have wrestlers on the show and say, what was your experience there? This is like two corporate sides of the company that have nothing to do with what's on TV saying there was some sort of company dispute between other third-party companies. It just, to me, it couldn't be more blurry from my perspective. So I don't have much of an opinion of it other than if that's what happened and how they feel, then they're going about it the right way, and we'll see how it turns out.
I'll say one thing about an antitrust lawsuit. The one thing I know is they are usually very long and very costly.
Yeah.
So the thing that's surprising about this is that this is a very small, I hadn't even heard of them, honestly. Sorry, because I'm just back into the thing. This is a small company taking on a giant. So that usually doesn't go well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's that too. Which also leads you to believe they've got to have something decent on the book. So, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I just don't know. I can't weigh in on a thing that I just am that far removed from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it was just filed this week, correct? So, like,
like a day ago, 2 days ago. So it's like, I have no clue. So, I mean, I appreciate people going like, I want to know what you think about it, but realistically, it's like, look, I'm a drunk on a podcast who yells about women wrestling and think that having Philly cheesesteaks on TV and not taking a bite of them is ridiculous.
What?
I don't know why you want to know my. Yeah,
that's a crime. Why aren't we having a trial about that?
That's what I mean. Like, to me, I'm like, that's kind of more my expertise than like, what do you think of this lawsuit? Psh, ask me about arithmetic. I don't know.
Well, I was really fortunate when I was a young man. I got to live with two lawyers. My last 2 years of high school, I didn't live with my parents, but I lived with two lawyers. One had a PhD in law, and I learned a little bit about it. And I will just tell you, the last time a big wrestler was involved in a lawsuit was the Hulk Hogan Gawker thing, and he was financially backed by like a billionaire. And that's the only reason he ever won that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, it's an uphill battle, so you hope you're fighting the good fight. So, but let's see a couple of things that happen. I'm going to do some minor things that I know that I don't think that Beard will have much to say about, so we can get into the stuff he does have to say about. But the Tom Hannafin, former Tom Phillips, got signed with Impact. He's going to be doing announcing over there. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But Justin, you got to hear him on his debut with the company, right? On Hard to Kill. Wasn't he there announcing?
Yeah, he I guess Matt Stryker's gone and he took over for him and D'Lo Brown as the commentary team. Like, it was so good to hear him back on commentary.
It was Tom and D'Lo?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was so good. And then when they had Ian Riccaboni from ROH when they did the ROH World Title match, it was such a good commentary team. I saw so many people talking about how it was like so weird to hear him talking Impact on and I was like, I'm like, it's not that bad. I feel like he's one of those guys that like delves into like every company. So it's like he's prepared for wherever he was going to go. So I was like, and just hearing him again was like, I was like, thank you. This is so good. I'm like, at least I don't have to hear Josh Matthews. That's all I care because
okay.
I'm not a fan of Josh Matthews. He's rough on commentary.
I always thought Tom Phillips was super underrated as a commentator. A lot of people would criticize him and talk about him and say he sounded super generic when he was in WWE, but I don't think he did. I think that he balanced that table in such a good way that when I heard they were losing him or released him, I was like, well, clearly some company has to realize their commentary could use him. It took longer than I expected because I think he's very strong in commentary, and I think he's going to be bringing a lot to that table. So.
Yeah, him and D'Lo is an amazing commentary team. He sounds. I was like, thank you. He sounds amazing. Still, I'm so happy that he finally is back on commentary somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Let's see. One other thing. Oh wait, no. I had like a little shit talk line in here I was going to bring up earlier that it's not important to go back to. But so something else. So Sasha Banks was in that commercial for the college football on ESPN. Did you get a chance to see that, Beard?
No. I fucking hate college football. It's like the closest thing to slavery in the U.S. So I watched the last quarter of the national championship game just because it actually got interesting. But I do have a wrestling thing that we didn't talk about before. I wanted to ask you about this guy. Apparently he's like a hot free Danhausen.
Okay.
You know this guy?
Him? I know.
You know any? I mean, he's not with any promotion right now, but he's supposed to be kind of a big thing, and he's under that. Like I got a thing on Twitter here. I don't know if you can see, but it's the ring light's not making it real. Anyway, I don't know. Is he under that like Undertaker auspice thing? Again, I always feel like we could have more of that. The WWE. I don't know if he's entertaining that, or I don't know. Have you seen
Justin,
the guy?
Do you want to dig in on Danhausen a little bit?
To me, I haven't even seen a lot of Danhausen to really like give an opinion on him. So
okay.
All right.
No, I was curious.
So let me pull back then. My thing is, because I'm trying to be fair. I don't love the character he's built, but I have a lot of respect for what he's doing. It is a little bit more Undertaker-ish, but it also does live in a sense of reality. Like, he doesn't do the supernatural stuff that Undertaker did, but he is a very interesting character in that he kind of bases it almost like if Conan O'Brien was an evil clown who was a comedian. It's kind of like how he tries to do it. So he does this goofy voice and, everything is Hausen and all that shit. He carries around a jar of teeth, and part of his finishing maneuver is he pours teeth into the person's mouth and then super kicks their face and looks like their teeth go everywhere. And he doesn't like cursing because he thinks it will get rid of in the way of his money. Like, the character is funny because he's like, I do everything for money. I want these contracts with big money. And like, you don't hear that narrative a lot. He is a very interesting character. He's very, very dedicated. He's turned a small indie thing into a very big thing, and he's doing very well. So I have a ton of respect for him. He does this. He does the Pee Wee Herman tequila dance. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He does that.
He'll
He'll do it in the middle of a match, and the idea is that he's trying to hypnotize the crowd or something. Like, I think Danhausen actually did a really good job. There is an episode, you can go into the archives of the Pro Wrestling for Life with Sean X-Pac Waltman. He did a really cool breakdown of the character and where it all kind of came from and why he does the things that he does, which I think makes the character more fun, if I'm being honest. And I know that there's a lot of people who think that every time he breaks character, it makes the character less fun. But I what he's doing is cool. I think it's surprising that Ring of Honor has already been making mention about coming back and doing what's that big tournament they got coming up in April? Something. But they're already announced a new show, but they've already released all their talent. I'm surprised that they wouldn't have held on to a guy or two like him that could have brought in people to.
Is that where he was at? Was Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you real quick, just because I'm back new and kind of fresh to this. Wasn't Seth Rollins a Ring of Honor guy?
Yep.
Yes.
So there's
Kevin
been
Owens.
some big name WWE guys that have come from that promotion, correct?
Yeah. CM Punk.
Yeah. CM Punk.
Kevin
okay.
Owens, Sami Zayn.
Kevin Owens, yeah, okay,
Yep.
Kevin
Owens,
Owens, yeah.
Sami Zayn, yeah.
Yeah, Sami Zayn too. Okay, yeah.
Ring of Honor has always been one of the biggest indie promotions you wanted to get in and through. Samoa Joe, you wanted to get in and get on top of Ring of Honor, and things like that would launch you into like indie stardom. If you could get to the Ring of Honor Championship, you were probably a big deal. Things have changed.
I saw that the WWE released Samoa Joe since you brought him up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was he doing anything? Like I know he was in AEW or not AEW. I'm so sorry. I know he was doing NXT stuff, correct? Was he doing commentating or?
He
He was.
Go ahead, Justin.
He was injured on the main roster for a while. He was doing commentary. He finally went back down to NXT after he got released the first time. He went back down to NXT. He was their champion for a little while. and then he gave it up due to an injury, and then they got him, and then he got released again.
Oh, okay.
So between that time off TV, he was heavily involved in the recruitment system.
Oh, was he? Good.
He was one of their big recruiters and one of their big. He was always one of their coaches there, and like if you look at the Las Vegas media scrums that Triple H had and stuff, and any of the footage of them doing a massive tryout in Vegas, Samoa Joe was there, and there was pictures recently of another one that happened where Samoa Joe and Thatcher were both there, and they were. Triple H even mentioned in the media scrum how important it was to have a guy like Samoa Joe there. So he was involved in recruiting and training and stuff. I think it's a shock to let him go just because I think that he's this generation's Paul Heyman, to be honest. I think he could run any promotion. I think he could do anything. Like, I don't think there's an aspect of wrestling he's not a genius at, you know?
Yeah.
So, but, you know, is what it is. Kuro coming through. Cheers to Kuro. Let's see. Let's see. Corey Graves is cleared to wrestle.
Yeah, that's cool. That was good to hear because I hate him as a commentary, so I'm ready to see him as a wrestler. I did see, though, again, I missed this. He wrestled Seth Rollins for the NXT title. I know he's been out for about 7 years. So it kind of shows you if he hadn't had injury problems, maybe where his trajectory could be. Again, obviously WWE likes him because they kept him around for the commentary. But it's old hat. That 3 people booth thing feels a little too congested. I don't think you need to have and I'll tell you why. Just my opinion again, real quick. The guy who does the actual calling, they have very similar voices. So it's really hard for me, especially an old veteran that's deaf in my right ear, to differentiate sometimes who is actually saying something. Like I had gotten Saxton and him, but the guy's name escapes me.
Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, him and Corey Graves sound really close to the same. Am I wrong? Do you guys have that same?
No, they definitely do sound pretty like similar when you hear them talk. And I go, was that Corey that said that, or was that Jimmy that said like? They do have a weird, like, their voices do sound the same.
That's tough for me.
Yeah, for sure. I will say this. I mean, whether or not he wants to wrestle is going to be a whole other conversation. I don't think you get cleared to wrestle if you're not looking to be a wrestler. So I think that says something if you went through the process to get cleared. What Corey does on commentating is, unless you're like really listening, it could be easy to miss, but he's running that table. Like, typically the guys like Michael Cole or Jimmy Smith should be the one in control of the table, pitching from person to person. They're the ones who are going to the commercial breaks and stuff. They're the one who's like just managing the show, and the color commentators are usually just kind of adding flair to it. Right. We're at a moment right now where Corey Graves is running the table and having to get Jimmy up to speed to be able to do that, because he's not meant to be doing that, but he's doing it in such a way where it's hard to notice because he's doing it in a colorful way, which I think that if you remove Corey from that table, you go from having a commentary team that is a lively thing to, I mean, if you have Byron and Jimmy, it's going to be a pretty mellow table. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying have Byron and Jimmy. I'm just saying, like, those two voices.
Oh, yeah.
Let me say this too, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about, who thinks what as a commentator. How would you like to see Corey Graves come back? Because that question was brought up, and I thought, would you want to see him come back at the Rumble? And if so, if he came back at the Rumble, would you want to see him do like the Booker T thing where he comes from the desk, or he actually comes out and does an intro thing?
Go ahead. Behind the desk thing.
You think the desk, Justin?
Yeah, I think it would make more sense unless they want to do the whole thing where it's like, oh, he's not on commentary tonight as a fake off, and then like a fake out, and then all of a sudden he comes out, we hear the music, and he comes out. Like, I would be like, okay, that's interesting, but I wouldn't mind the whole getting up from behind the table thing.
Yeah, that's a very Jerry Lawler move, and I think that he might do it as an homage to Lawler, because we haven't really seen it censored before Lawler, where someone literally on the commentary table gets up, gets in the Rumble, gets knocked out, and goes back to commentary.
I thought Booker T did it.
Booker did it. JBL did it. at
Yeah.
one point too.
Booker T did it.
From
Yeah.
the table and back, or
Yeah.
He went from
Okay.
the table to the Rumble right there from the commentating table.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Michael Cole.
Michael Cole did it the one time. Yeah, that was really fucking funny. But that's all kind of an homage, I think, back to Lawler, because Lawler was the dude who first really was doing that. But I think because he's a commentator who loves the business so much, I think that's how you would do it. Have him get up, throw himself in there. I don't know. Do you think you bushwhacker him and just throw him right the fuck back out and have it be like a comedy spot, or do you think that you actually let him in there for a few minutes?
Oh, you got to leave him in, right?
No, leave him in for about maybe like 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, and then just see if he's just get the feeling back a little bit.
All right. Yeah. I think I'd be fine either way. Go ahead, Beard.
One more question for you guys. I'm interested in your opinion on this, Justin. Would you be, because we all know that Corey Graves and Carmella are engaged and there are a couple outside. Would you be cool with them being another power couple and seeing that power couple dynamic like we're seeing with a little bit with Edge and the Glamazon with Miz and his Maurice? Would you like to see that?
I wouldn't be against it. I know Corey Graves is a pretty damn good heel, so
And
having
Carmella.
having him hype up Carmella a lot and then her doing the same for him, wouldn't really be against it.
Let's not forget that the entire time of 7 years of him being on commentary, he has not truly been out of a character. He's always been a character, a heel, an obnoxious dork. Carmella and him as a couple like a Miz Maurice could be so hateable, like in the best way. They could be absolutely hateable. They're both so good at that.
Yeah.
Even if Corey wants to make his own faction, I wouldn't be against either.
Yeah.
It would be
And
cool.
I think that he's so good and smart. I think you could pull him. I think whatever you do with him could be so clever. You know what I mean? Like you could have him be like, "Hey, I'm doing." Remember there was that weird time where he had sources, and he was getting leaks, and he would get it from the table because he would get a phone call and come back, and he would leak information.
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
No, I mean this was
Right.
like a couple years ago. Like, there's so many different weird, crazy, cool ways you could seep Corey Graves into a ring. That I think
remember that.
I mean, maybe because I just fantasy book what I like, but I can't think of a shitty way to put him out there.
Was that around the time that Tom Phillips was still on commentary? That was
Yeah.
That's the one with Renee on there, wasn't it?
Yes.
Also?
Yes, 100%.
Well, let's hope we get some amalgamation of what you guys were talking about, because that excites me more than his commentation. And let me caveat with, I've heard him on McAfee in a real interview where he's just being the human being that he is, and I really liked him. So I'm just not a huge fan of his commentary, and I think I think I explained it's mainly because him and Jimmy sound so close. It's sometimes hard for me to differentiate. I think if I put on subtitles for Raw, it might help me, but
I got you.
so I would be really excited to see him do ring stuff. If that happens, who would you guys like to see go on the desk?
That's the tough one. I feel like they just take Kevin Patrick and put him on the desk. The backstage Irish commentator guy. I feel like they just put him on the desk because I don't really know anybody else who they put on the desk. That's the
Imagine
thing.
you keep Jimmy and Byron. You'd have to have a strong commentator there. You'd have to pull like a Wade Barrett.
You need that
That's a
heel
whole-
representation kind of at the table, right? The Lawler role, right? I mean, King and
You could-
and
Yeah, you could
Ross
get away
probably-
with like a Nigel McGuinness from UK. You could pull him in. You could pull in Wade Barrett. But you wouldn't be able to pull someone who's not a strong commentator already just to try him out. Like you could maybe bring back a Samoa Joe. You'd have to find somebody who's strong in that because of how much Corey does bring weight to that table.
But you
Or
guys don't
second
have it.
heel
Oh, sorry,
commentator.
Justin. Go ahead.
Corey's technically the heel commentator if you think
Right.
about it. So you
Exactly.
gotta fill that spot in, but I don't really know like who's like you'd have to go with somebody that's like not wrestling.
Yeah.
Throw
It would
him
have
on
to be like a Wade or a Nigel. Like I don't think you could do Kevin. Kevin's so new and fresh in all of it and a good guy that I don't think you could put this random Irish guy from the back onto the table and have him be an asshole all of a sudden and have it work, you know?
Yeah,
Throw
'cause that
Jake
guy's-
Elba in there.
So you guys don't have a an individual you'd like to see in there?
I can't think of one like that would really I'd see fit, and I don't know. And even if you kept Jimmy and Byron, that's just too much babyface commentary for a lot of stuff. Like,
Yeah, you couldn't do it without adding the heel, I don't think. You don't like even like a JBL coming back or something. I just am really curious.
JBL is like the only one person I could think of really, but I don't really know like.
You don't think Wade Barrett could do it?
Back on commentary. I don't know if they pull Wade, because then who would you have in NXT?
Well, that's just it. NXT's all about ever changing anyways. And if Wade's strong enough and solid enough, move him along. Give someone else to Vic Joseph to bring up, you know?
I wouldn't be against Wade. It's kind of interesting.
Can you imagine a fucking LA Knight on commentary week after week? Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show just starts off. I'm Vic Joseph here with LA Knight. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. LA Knight's a big personality. I could see him actually pulling off a McAfee style, like saying the right fucking things at the right time. Maybe not on the same level of McAfee, but in his own way, being that kind of a character.
And I think that's one reason I really like Pat and his style, because he comes at it from our perspective, a fan.
Yes.
He's not the
He
heel.
feels like a fan on the desk.
Yeah. He shits on Adam Pearce, scumbag, and all them folks.
Sami Zayn.
Fuck you, Adam Pearce.
Yeah.
I'm still jilted that cocksucker blocked me.
That's, well.
What happens when your pants are too tight?
Let's
I wish
see.
I would have said something. Go. Sorry.
It's before
I
we
just
get
wish
too
I would have
far,
said something really inflammatory to him. So I deserve the block.
so it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
It's like when someone in a relationship gets in a lot of shit for cheating, but they didn't, and they're like, "Well, no, I wish I had, because I'm already in the shit house for it." Yeah. Let's see. Before we get too down a rabbit hole about Pierce, I want to do two things. One of them, I want to hit Kuro in the chat. He says a bunch of wrestlers got hacked on Twitter because of a free shoe sponsorship scam, and says there was until recently a company that makes shoes going around on Twitter offering athletes free deals. Lance Archer was caught in, Omos, and possibly Bray Wyatt, with more names still being sifted through. They all ended up getting hacked, then either selling merch or offering other things to, quote, buy to get fans money. Interesting. Well, keep an eye on that, guys. And what's up?
Is that part of that scheme with the fan that attacked Seth Rollins? Because
No.
remember, that fan was catfished by someone, and he gave like a substantial amount of money to those people. So I wonder if
I think that's a different scam.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. I just think that's a different scam. But this is crazy. Yeah. So, guys, if anybody listening, because we know that some wrestlers listen to our show, we've heard it. If anyone is listening and is getting approached by any shoe company that's not Nike, fucking slow play that. Before we move into the shows, which we're about to do, I just want to say now, because we tweeted about it a little bit yesterday, there's a bunch of new merch. We, as a podcast, have a ton of new merch, including pint glasses, wine tumblers, tote bags, all sorts of shit dropped this week. If you go to WrestlingOnTheRocks.com and click on the shop, you get access to see all of that. I want everyone to know this. We pulled away from Pro Wrestling Tees because of their horrible customer service, their terrible way of dealing with something like a securities issue. As somebody who's worked in IT for well over a decade, we're close to 2. The way that they handled that situation was so disheartening and disturbing that I wanted to cut ties with them, and we did. If you go to the shop on WrestlingOnTheRocks.com, you can see our Teespring site. Here's the deal. The prices are low because I made it where on per shirt, to pull back the curtain a little bit, per shirt on Wrestling Tees, you get $7 a shirt. If it's $20 shirt, anything above that, people get on top of it. So just know that when you see someone with a $25 shirt, they're trying to pull in $10 a shirt. But if they did a sale, we were getting $5 a shirt. What I've done now is I've gone through and put all this merch up there, and I've reduced the cost of everything to the point where we're making less than $2 on every single item you buy. That is to try and make the idea of buying it easier for you guys. It's like Bishop keeps saying on Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast. It's not all about making money. A lot of it is about just having the conversation and getting the word out. We love that you're here having drinks with us. We want you to engage. We want you to be a part of it. And if all you can do is buy a thing that puts $2 in the tip jar, that piles up. So maybe instead of being able to only get 1 pint glass where I could have got $10 a glass, maybe you can get 2 or 3 now and have a drink with your friends, and I can get $6 for that. You know what I mean? With that in mind, Beard, if you don't mind going to wrestlingontherocks.com on your little browser there real quick and pulling up the shop, I want you to see something that is a brand new design. If you guys remember, there was a Drinking Buddies t-shirt that was me, Clump, and Kevlar as wrestling buddies, the old pillow guys. Today has launched a sponsored, not sponsored logo based off of the Sonic drinks that Amanda has every week. And now we have 3 new Drinking Buddy shirt designs to incorporate the OG, me, Clump, and Kev, and to incorporate both shows. So now we have a Wednesday Drinking Buddies and a Thursday Drinking Buddy shirt. Sports Beer, do you see those?
Well, so what happened was I clicked the thing and it took me to the Pro Wrestling Tees thing that said don't buy shirts from here. So I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. I'm looking on Pointless Aggression. Sponsored, not sponsored, I see.
Nice.
Drinking Buddies, which that's so cool, man. Yeah, that's cool. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
That's the original Drinking Buddies shirt there. There's a brand new design of that even. So if you have the OG Drinking Buddies shirt, that's discontinued. Now we have a new style. Beard, you're a drinking buddy. You got me, you got Kevlar in a whole brand new outfit, rocking the Ironics like I know he's going to love to do. And then we got Clump and Amanda in the other one. And I've got two different designs of my shirt. On the Thursday Night Chaser, I put the old school blue and black bow tie.
I will be getting one today.
I will be getting one soon.
But I wanted you to see that, Beard, because I thought the idea of you being a drinking buddy, you might get a bit of a kick on that one.
That is cool as hell. Thank you.
Remember those pillows?
What?
Do you remember those pillows? The little pillow fighters?
The pillow fighters.
Back in like the...
Oh, you mean the little wrestling guys that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's them. So that's what you would look like if you were one of those pillows.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Now that's your next thing you got to have made, you know?
We've looked into that. Those pillows are so fucking expensive.
Yeah, they're $200.
Yeah. There's ones where it was literally going to be like, I think the cheapest I found was $90 each.
Whoa.
And I was all like, come on. Unless I was going to buy 1,000. So we'll see. But Sports Beard officially on a t-shirt, and I wanted to unveil that in front of him today, so he could see that. And then stickers coming. We're going to do a sticker set of the Drinking Buddies. We're going to have them made through fan of the show and our favorite indie wrestler, Sam Stackhouse. He does have a sticker printer, and he's been doing prints for all sorts of people. I designed a Stackhouse wrestling buddy. And then I went ahead and we're going to be getting him these, and we're going to be having sets of the Drinking Buddies so you can set them up however you want. Buy whichever pillow guys you want and do whatever sets you'd like. And we're going to do a couple full sets and then sell a bunch individually and just have the option to do that.
Well, you
So
have
what?
the sponsored.
We're about to go on a shopping spree. Jeez.
Yeah.
What, to be decked out in Wrestling on the Rocks merch right now? Holy
The
hell.
whole last 2 weeks, I've just been sitting around at night in bed before going to bed and staying up way too late just drawing new designs of stuff. If we were going to shut down Pro Wrestling Tees and open up a Teespring, I was going to do it with a bunch of new shit.
Yes.
Scarby in the chat saying ordering now.
Oh, don't tell her no. Don't order it.
Everybody calm down.
Get what she wants, though. Tell her not to buy anything for me. I don't
All right.
want her to buy it because I got my own shit. So
You're just building a little card over there? All right,
I'm gonna
but
I'm
guys,
gonna get
that's what the big news is. We have a Teespring with a
Way
shitload
cool.
of pint glasses, wine tumblers, sponsored, not sponsored, for the people who like to have wine. I mean, that's been the thing for a long time. We've been saying sponsored, not sponsored, and Amanda's really been driving it home with her Sonic sponsorship she's been trying to get. So I thought, hey, this is as close as we're gonna get. But let's go ahead and get into the shows.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm out of news stuff. Oh, Scarby makes a really good point. Don't tell me what to do. I can't argue that. Let's see. Let's go ahead and start with a little bit of what happened on Smackdown. Let's start with how it opened, and we'll get into a little bit else. But it opened with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. I had asked Sportsbeard before what he was going to think about the new presentation of Brock Lesnar. I will say this presentation of Brock Lesnar on SmackDown was different still, because what we got on the Raw prior was very much a, hello, my name is Paul Heyman, and it was very much an old school callback to a former partnership, which Beard didn't get to see much of. So I do want to know, what did you think of this presentation?
of just Brock Lesnar's presentation. Like you're asking me or Justin?
What's up?
We asking.
You're asking me or
asking Beard? Beard first.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm on the record. It's really kind of fun to see him in like because by all accounts he's a really good guy, right? And really friendly, and I like rooting for him, and I like seeing him as like almost a baby face. And I like that he is doing his own promo stuff. He's good at it. He's just good at it now. And I feels like he's enjoying every moment of this, and I'm a huge fan. And the only thing I would be a little bit critical of is I was surprised they jumped right back into the Roman thing, because I feel like they could even have Lashley on SmackDown, because I'm really excited for that match. I really want to see that match, and I kind of care about that storyline a little bit, because and the only reason why is because I've heard from the community of how many people wanted to see that match. And so since I've been away and really didn't see Lesnar in the ring at all, I mean, I've seen every one of his UFC fights because I'm a big UFC fan, and I watch probably 60-70% of the pay-per-views for UFC every year. So so I wasn't a fan of him in the UFC. Like I enjoyed seeing him get his ass kicked a little bit, but now that I know about him, it almost kind of breaks my heart that I wasn't a little bit bigger fan of him. And actually the last time he came, I think for UFC 200, it was kind of cool to see him back and stuff. So like, it was just nice that he jumped on. I know he helps. Like he's the biggest pay-per-view draw. I believe that Raw and SmackDown were the highest rated of the year or something because of him. Like he's a big draw. I think he's a bigger draw than Roman, in my opinion. I think he's more popular and more whatever. And he's great in the ring, and he's just, his promo stuff is so good. So I'm a huge fan of it. I do wonder what they're doing with the Heyman thing. It is a little confusing there. Like Roman was defending Heyman and stuff, but I enjoyed it. It was good. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you said that. If I could cut in just real quick.
No, I'm done. I don't have anything.
What I loved about that particular segment is, going into it, producer lady asked me, so are they going to try and make Roman a babyface now, or are they going to try and turn Brock back to heel? And I was like, I really don't even think I want to speculate on it, because we're talking about three performers in Roman, Brock, and Paul Heyman who perform on a level that it's hard to comprehend right now, that I was like, I'll be curious to see what they do more than anything. And in that segment, they teased literally every option. They showed Brock being an asshole. They showed Roman being an asshole. They showed Brock being kind of a good guy. They showed Roman defending Heyman. You showed Heyman showing undying support for Brock, and then Heyman showing undying love for Roman. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I was so fucking hooked by it, because I was like, they are just fucking playing with us. They're doing little musical chairs with us, like, where are we going to sit? You don't know. And I'm like, you're right, I don't. I thought that segment was perfect because I was just, every time I did something, I was like, oh, he's a bad guy. And I went, oh wait, no, he's a good guy. Oh wait, no, this guy's a bad guy. Oh wait, he's a good guy. Like, lost in it. Just lost. Justin, what'd you think about this segment? And we can talk a little bit about the Bobby Lashley thing too.
No, I loved it, especially coming from the guy who was immediately was like, oh God, we're getting old Brock because we went back to Paul Heyman. So immediately I went, oh fuck, we're going back to Paul and reigning, defending, undisputed. I'm like, okay, this is gonna suck. I'm like, this is gonna result in Brock probably not showing up again and all that shit. And immediately, what does he do? He shows up on Smackdown. And I'm like, okay, we're getting some, like, so he is still different. I'm like, this is really fucking cool right now. Like, I love this. Like, it's so interesting to see babyface Brock, but then they literally, like you just said, they threw in so many different things there. It was like, he's babyface. No, he's babyface. He's heel. He's heel. I feel bad for Paul Heyman. I don't feel bad for Paul Heyman. I'm like, fuck. It was so, like, so enjoyable. Like, it's getting me to like Brock Lesnar more, and I was never really a big Brock Lesnar fan because of his whole never showing up shit, and just every match was 2.5 minutes, and it was just the same Brock Lesnar every time. But now this just feels like Brock Lesnar wants to be here again. It's like it feels like a rebirth for him, and I love it.
Dude, I love that you've been getting worked for so long. You're such a mark.
Quick question for you, Justin. Do you feel like you see his enjoyment there, and the fact, like, because I didn't get to see it, it sounds like Brock's entry into the WWE was very much kind of like Goldberg-esque. Am I wrong?
I mean, when he first started out,
yeah,
it was Jetpack. It was like when he first debuted ever, it was Jetpack on Lesnar. Like, he beat The Rock in less than like months.
In his debut year, he won King of the Ring, I think Royal Rumble, and beat The Rock for the championship his first year. And they called him and billed him as the next big thing.
Right.
It was, and then he left, and he came back in 2012, and it was just all it almost felt the same thing. Like, it was just right back to Rock.
And there were people who were critical of, or even stated that they think that part of the reason why Brock left so early in the company was because he did everything so fast. What was left? If he won King of the Ring, the Rumble, and a championship at a SummerSlam against The Rock, what is there in the company to truly do that he hasn't already done? And that's why he went to the NFL. I think it was his love that brought him back. Other people think other things. Beard, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just was going to say, like, he only tried out for the NFL, I believe. He didn't make it. And then I think, didn't go back to WWE after that?
It was a couple years later, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I don't know the timeline with him bouncing around or whatever. I actually have a question for both of you. Because he's in such a good place, and he happens to be a University of Minnesota alum, can you see him becoming a big baby face, enjoying this? I know he was only supposed to be like a 3-fight thing, so I think we've already exceeded what we thought we would get out of Brock Lesnar, honestly. Do you think we could see him putting over like a Gable Stevenson?
Oh, shit.
He was in the crowd too that one day, that one episode. I forgot. I think it was Raw. He was there in the crowd.
What was the reaction there, Marsh?
That's been the big question for so long. Who's Brock willing to put over, right? So here's the thing. If I could circle back real quick to Justin being a mark, and I say that with so much love, you got worked so hard. I don't think for a second.
I'll eat and drink Ocro every time. I don't care.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to buy you a bottle of Ocro and say, you better get going.
Oh, I will.
The idea to me is that Brock Lesnar showing how much he loves it and what he's doing right now is not an indication that he is now starting to love it. It's an indication to me of that he's truly one of the last remaining kayfabe guys, the original Goldust, Kane, Undertaker highlighted. Brock Lesnar's as close to Undertaker as we have. Someone who's truly working the entire everybody. Fucking everybody's getting worked. He'll work the boys, he'll work the dirt sheets, he'll work his neighborhood. if it means that people love wrestling more. And I think part of what he knew his character was a character that, quote, didn't want to be there. And he portrayed that immensely perfectly. I don't think it was an insight to him not liking it before. I really, truly think he's loved it for so long that he was able to perform on such a level that you thought he didn't like it. When I think of that, there's only like, 5 or 6 people who've ever beat Brock Lesnar, and it's been like John Cena, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre,
Goldberg.
Well,
Goldberg.
the current
There's not
Universal
many.
Champion, right, has beat him. Correct? Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
beat him.
I said Roman. I said Roman.
Oh,
I thought
did you?
if I
Okay,
didn't,
okay.
I apologize. Roman as well. But like, there's a small number. Randy Orton might have beaten him once, maybe. But like, that's it. These are only like
Really,
Hall
he
of
hasn't
Famers.
even put Randy Orton over.
Triple H did.
Triple
Randy
H.
Orton.
It was Triple
Oh,
H. You're right.
Yeah, of course that happened.
Yes. Actually, the match that I want you to watch this one. Actually, Brock versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam. I don't remember which SummerSlam, but it only happened once. Shocking. You want to talk about not putting a guy over? He just murdered a guy.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to comment on people thinking he doesn't like the business.
Yeah.
The only reason I would deny that wholeheartedly is what I've heard from the wrestlers I respect, like the Mark Calloway's, like the Stone Cold Steve Austin's, that just say nothing but awesome things about him and how great a guy he is behind the scenes. So I think, and that honestly, that has sort of really won me over on him. But again, I can't complain about his wrestling career because I never saw it. So until now, and I really like what I'm seeing now, the beard and everything, and the fact that he is a little bit of a baby face.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that he never liked it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was his first thing, but I don't think it was his undying love. It's not like these guys like Triple H, or not Triple H. He's a bad example. Like Stone Cold, The Undertaker, who just grinded in these shitty regional promotions for decades. You know what I'm saying? Until they found their niche and struck gold, right? So didn't Stone Cold beat, I can't even remember who he beat when he did the Austin 316 rant, but he wasn't Stone Cold yet, right? He just admitted that he was losing his hair like I did, and he shaved it. I can't remember who it was back in the day. It was like 97 or whatever. But was it
Go
Jake
ahead.
the Snake? It was Jake the Snake. Thank you.
It was Jake the Snake. He was Stone Cold, but he was Stone Cold for only about 2 or 3 months. He was fresh off of Ringmaster. I will say, if I could defend Triple H for just a second, Stone Cold was 6 years into the business when that happened. So Mark Calloway and Stone Cold weren't decades on the territories like a lot of guys are nowadays. Like a AJ, 16 years on the indies before getting there. Typically back then in the territory days, because it was such a grind, 6 years is what it took you to get to the top. But nowadays, because the grind is so different, it's like 16 years, which is different. And I'm only saying that to defend Triple H in that he was also in the territories and went through some shitty things as well. However, none of that's important, but I do hear what you're saying. And yeah, I think that Brock Lesnar has always loved it. I think the idea of Gable Steveson getting put over by Brock, to me, the reason I had such a reaction is he's only put over people who we already know are the guy.
Yeah.
Can
Well,
you imagine if he put over a Gable, how much that would mean?
Well, first of all, if you see that guy, like he's
Yes.
impressive. Like,
Yes.
and what a great way for him to break into business, and him being an alumnus of the University of Minnesota where Brock went and stuff like that. It just makes sense. And I hope we get to see it.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And I just realized I forgot Drew McIntyre was the other guy who beat
Who
Brock.
said him first? You shouldn't shit talk the greatest wrestler.
Don't forget Eddie Guerrero too.
Oh, Eddie
Guerrero.
Guerrero beat him?
And Guerrero.
Oh, man, that's
Yeah.
cool.
But these were all guys who were established where they were, and they were on the top, and could they get past Brock or not was like the ultimate thing, right? If you could get Gable Steveson within a year to beat Brock, that could be everything to his career. You know what I mean? Like, that could be huge. Do I think he will or won't? I have no fucking clue. Is he willing to? Probably. But I think there's so much more to it than we even know. I'm not going to pretend to be in the mind of Brock. But I do think that in the idea of, can you imagine Brock putting over Gable Steveson? I mean, that gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Imagine it happens in one's first year. Justin, what were you about to say?
A crazy question here, but like, do you think that this is Brock? Like, maybe this is his final run?
What show was it on that didn't you hear him, Sports, say he had 3 years left in him?
Yeah. I don't know what show, but it sounded like in an it wasn't a show. It was the Spitting Chicklets podcast. Paul Bissonnette, who's on TNT broadcast, which is out of Atlanta. They had done the show in Atlanta and they had met Brock Lesnar, and he took photos with Wayne Gretzky and Paul Bissonnette and them. And they asked him about his health, and he said, no, he feels the best he's ever felt. And he think he could do 3 more years. And honestly, I want to see 3 more years of that Brock Lesnar. That's really just seems like he's enjoying it and he's getting to play a different character and stuff like that. I recently, Cena was on Pat McAfee's show, and he talked about a little bit about how Vince and him talked about turning Cena heel, and they basically just came to the realization that it wasn't going to work. They had to stick with the virtuous character of John Cena or whatever. And maybe just in the past, they felt like, oh, we can't have Brock play a likable character. But I think he's been away long enough, and everybody's sick of, if you're sick of the big time heel guys, this is really cool to get to see him like be a baby face. And
I still feel like he didn't feel like he wanted to do it anymore. Like when he first came, when he came back the second time, I felt like beforehand he didn't feel like he wanted to do it anymore. I think he was just like, yeah, it's just a place I can go to right now because I got nothing else going on with myself. And he just used it as a fallback to. And now this, like I said, this today feels like a Lesnar that gives a shit.
Dude, I wish I could pour you a glass of Old Crow right now and just slide it across the table. Like, are you out of your mind? By the time he came back that time, he had so much money his great-grandkids are fine. The guy lives on a ranch in Saskatchewan and hunts when he wants meat. He doesn't need X number. How many more millions of dollars makes an actual impact on his life? The answer is 0 more millions makes an impact. If he's doing something, he's not dumb and he won't do it for free. But he's not sitting at home living his amazing life where he goes home to Sable every day and doesn't have to deal with travel and bullshit and airports and assholes and people spitting and throwing stuff at him. You can just stay in a fucking log cabin with Sable forever. Fuck that. He's coming here because it's what he wants to do. Vince McMahon gives him a call out of respect for Vince and out of a love of the game. He's coming back. Whatever that number is purely business related. That was a secondary thing. Yes, I'm coming back. We'll figure out the number. What didn't start off, well, what's the number because that will bring me back or not? You know what I mean? He's past the millions that make differences in his life.
I would be short to say that he, money is definitely a motivator. I mean, I don't think that that's not a factor. I just think that who cares if he's enjoying it and he's loving it and we're loving the product. So I think that's the most important thing, right?
Yes. I'm not saying there's no factor to money. I'm saying it's not the factor to him. He knows before he hears a number if he's willing to go back or not. If you are going to shortchange him, he won't go. Right? Why would he's a business?
You got to pay the man. He definitely is. Yeah, I think he's one of the higher paid UFC guys of all time too. Which is saying because it's been how long since he fought? So
100%. But I think he knows before he picks up that phone if he sees Vince's number if he's going to go back or not. We'll figure out the number, but he's not going to be shortchanged, and it's a willingness to go back already or not. You know what I mean? I don't think that he gets a call and goes, "Well, will he pay me enough?" I think it's he already knows my rate. You know what I mean?
And one small caveat, just to end my opinion on this whole thing, his UFC numbers were large because of how big a wrestling thing he was.
Yes,
so,
because wrestling is everything.
There's no doubt, that was the biggest reason he was a huge draw for the UFC.
I remember for a while he wanted to do both at the same time.
Right? Yes.
I think he did do a little
like
bit of that.
I think there was a little bit of an overlap, but maybe not. Maybe you're right.
I
I don't know. It's
the last
I'd have to look at dates.
he fought in 200. I thought he was still actively wrestling for the WWE, which I actually thought was cool because I was like, those guys have to stay in shape anyway. It only makes sense.
There was a time he wanted to go back while still doing it because I remember him talking about how he wanted to go to the UFC and show up with the WWE Championship at the same time, and I was like, oh, well, that would have been fucking crazy.
Awesome.
Like, it's like with Bobby Lashley. He wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to do both.
Yeah.
He wanted to wrestle and do MMA at the same time. So,
well, and to defend both those guys specifically, they both and my high school was like back-to-back state champions in wrestling, and those guys were the best athletes when I went to high school, and they worked their ass off. Like, yeah. So, but outside of collegiate wrestling in college, there's nothing for those guys to do professionally other than the Olympics, which is like, less than a zillionth of a percent that you're going to represent the U.S. Gable Stevenson got to, right, and he won a gold, and that's awesome. And guys, Kenny Monday and stuff back in the day. So I think that a lot of those guys, their only path to like a professional, like athletic career was like WWE, WWF, whatever, back in the day. But you'll hear a lot of like MMA pundits like Joe Rogan, et cetera, say they thought the best base for MMA before you get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and everything was collegiate wrestling. And you have this giant pool to pick from. And so I think that a lot of those guys, the MMA wasn't big when they got out of college for Lesnar and for Bobby Lashley. And it became something big. So they saw it and they were like, man, I was such a good collegiate wrestler. I want to go do this. I want to prove that I can do this. And so I think that was really the motivating factor for a lot of those guys.
I think if you want to know how big Brock Lesnar was to UFC, all you have to do is look at how much they paid CM Punk to be on their pay-per-view. Because here was a dude with no background, but they said, well, the last guy we got with that same background, which was not the same background, but the last WWE guy we got was $200 million. You know what I mean? So they paid up to CM Punk to get his ass whooped twice because he's not a fighter. He's a glass-jawed little twerp.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, like, I wasn't like I never saw anything of CM Punk. I saw him fight in the UFC, but I never saw any of his wrestling stuff. So I didn't have a negative or positive opinion of the guy. I wasn't rooting for or against him, but you could tell, like, had he done it like 10 years earlier, he probably would have been a pretty good fighter. But he just a little long in the tooth when he got to I think he was in his mid to late 30s, was he not? He was a little bit long.
Not only was he long in the tooth, he was enormous in the ego. And I think that's a bad place to have a massive ego if you're not already on that level. Like, ego goes a long way when you've been training a long time. When you've been training for 2 years and you have a massive ego, you go in there and you get your ass handed to you. Yeah. You know what I mean? As a drunk who's not been training. So, but I'll tell you this, as a dumbass who went through a number of trainings and boxing academies, I wouldn't have a problem fighting a CM Punk, but I would definitely have a problem fighting a fucking Brock Lesnar. If someone offered both contracts in front of me for the same amount, I'd be like, I'll go with a CM Punk one. I feel like there's a chance. With Brock, it's like,
Brock Lesnar's fist is the size of your frickin' head.
I know. Let's wrap up SmackDown with Johnny Knoxville showed up on SmackDown, threw Sami Zayn over the top rope, and Michael Cole says, "That's it. It's made it official. He's qualified." I thought that was such a.
No, they
announced that he was going to do it, right? But then, you're right. Yeah, it was. It was
Johnny Knoxville has made the Royal Rumble or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. And somebody pointed out, I think it was you, Ref Marsh, on the last show, that he was wearing like the Andy Kaufman-esque when he cut the promo like a week earlier. Like, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. And he was wearing kind of what I'm for it. It's a cross promotion thing, obviously, because Jackass 5,000 out. But like, I have no, there's always one person you're like, oh, they got somebody in the Rumble that's like, okay.
There's always a weirdo there. Oh, So this happened on SmackDown before we go to Raw, because it also showed on Raw, but it had a different effect. They showed, so Charlotte announced she's going to be in the Rumble, which, why would a champion be in a Rumble? I don't like it. The only time I've ever liked a champion being in the Rumble is when Roman had to defend the title in the Rumble. So he had to stay in the Rumble and win it to keep his championship. That's fine. When Brock Lesnar... What?
The AJ Styles debut at that Rumble.
Yeah. Could AJ Styles walk out the WWE champion? Who knows? But Brock Lesnar, when he joined the Rumble in 2020, saying that no one deserved a shot with him, and he'll prove it by joining the Rumble and throwing every motherfucker out, and doing so for half the Rumble. Incredible. But for Charlotte just to be all like, I'm just going to be in it because I'm in it. I'm like, fuck off. Like, what the fuck is she in there for? It's not even storyline. It feels so much like Vince McMahon right before WrestleMania 36 and being like, she knows her role and stays in her lane. Charlotte Flair. You know what I mean? She's just in there because she's in there.
All I can think of is that it's going to end up being like a Brock and Drew thing. It's just going to end up being where she gets eliminated so we can decide her opponent.
Right. Now, with that in mind, that's what I'm hoping for. We can either get a Nikki Bella Charlotte out of that, because that could be kind of neat. However, the one that I think would be the bigger match, and the one that a lot of people were going fucking apeshit, rightfully so, us included, Mickie James, current Impact Knockouts champion, has been announced for the Royal Rumble. What I loved on Raw, they didn't say it, but Pat McAfee did. And there's part of me that thinks that Pat McAfee said it because he fucking knows and not because he was fucking told, and because Pat McAfee does what Pat McAfee wants to do, because at any moment, if they say don't wear shorts, he'll just fucking quit the job, because that motherfucker does what he wants, when he wants, or he quits. That dude almost quit at Mania.
Yeah, he just signed a $130 million deal with FanDuel. He doesn't give a fuck about what they have to say to him. I mean,
exactly.
He respects fans. I don't.
That whole thing?
Huh?
We know what's the bad thing about that announcement? I had completely forgotten that she was Knockouts champion at the time until Pat McAfee said something, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's right. She's Knockouts champion." And I'm like, "This is fucking crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm peeved that they're announcing people. I hate that shit. That would have been so much more of a freaking insane surprise if you'd have just left it as it is and not said a damn word about it. But you freaking still said anything about it, and I'm still excited to see it because it's a fucking
right." So
crossover.
About that real quick. So Pat McAfee, I think, even before he had the $130 million FanDuel deal, Sam Roberts has gone on record, said he's been in the room twice on kickoff shows that Pat McAfee has turned to him and said, I think I'm just going to quit. I think I'm just going to leave. He goes, Pat McAfee's ready to walk out at every single moment of his life. So what are they going to say to him, right? So I think that part of me believes that Pat McAfee just said, that's the Knockouts champion, and then says she had a garbage finish to her career here and has a bone to pick coming back because of the whole garbage thing online, which I thought fucking amazing he said that on TV, right? And I love that they let him say it, because they say, what are you going to do? That's what fans are thinking, right? I love that they said that because guys like Justin forgot. But what did you do, Justin, after that announcement? What did you do that weekend? You bought the fucking Impact pay-per-view.
I watched it. I did. I had to. I went into it spoiler free because I didn't watch it the night of, but I went in spoiler free, and my God, what a show, too.
And exactly, what a show. Not what a match, what a show. What WWE did there, which I thought was fucking incredible, is they put over Impact. Could they have put them over more? Yes. When they tweeted that she was the champion, could they have added Impact? Yes. They didn't, though.
Did WWE put over Impact, or did Pat McAfee put over Impact?
Both. Because their social media said TNA champion.
Yeah, that's right. I saw the social media thing, too.
Yes.
Every one of their socials put that over. And I was like, way to go, guys.
Exactly. Now, they could have added them to give the hyperlink so people could have had it easier. Yes, all that. I agree. They could have done more, but they didn't do nothing. And because I'm here to shit on AEW as my primary function, AEW never mentioned in a 1-year deal they had with Impact. They never said it on their TV. They never tweeted about them. They brought the title out one time. Their current champion had that title and they only brought it on TV once for a fucking gimmick thing. The idea that WWE immediately on what could also have been a rather throwaway entry of just a surprise. Oh shit, that's crazy. You know, she's somewhere else. Let the fans talk about it. They went ahead and said it. They tweeted about it. They did the thing. And I think a lot of that, because Kevlar called me to complain about this segment saying, I hate when they ruin surprises. Don't tell me who's going to be in the Rumble. Don't tell me who's going to be a surprise. Don't tell me all this shit. Especially Mickie James, because imagine the moment. Say what?
I said, I'm with you, Kev.
Right?
I hate that.
I get it. However, they didn't even announce all of them. There's still a third of the people we don't know, which makes me think there's going to be bigger people coming through. We might get an Oscar return. We might get a Bayley return. You might get a Paige return. And we don't want that to overshadow something as important as an Impact champion coming in. But what you could do and what you did do is you probably sold more Impact pay-per-views because you said it when you said it. You said it days before their pay-per-view where it was going to be decided if Mickie James was showing up as a champion or not.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
The match was excellent, too.
Yeah, brutal. So I thought it was badass, but I totally get people who hated that fucking happened. But I also think, relax. We'll be all right.
Here's what I'll say. And because I know Mickie James was in WWE at one point, right? And I missed all that again. But what I'll say is, isn't it kind of nice though? I mean, like, there are going to be surprises at the Rumble on the women's side and the men's. We're going to be surprised by somebody in there. We're going to have other things to talk about. I just feel like it doesn't hurt to like build a little bit of excitement towards a pay-per-view. And I understand where Kev is coming from. And Justin, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, like, is it not the worst thing in the world to just like say, hey, we're going to have this? The only thing I will say to kind of poo-poo what you said about AEW not doing a lot of cross promotional stuff is they're a new brand. So like, they're just trying to get their footing. WWE is like the gold standard, right? They've been around forever. So like, they can afford to put someone over. They can afford to put a smaller, I'm surprised they don't do it more, but I think with the evolution of having NXT and stuff, you know, I asked you in previous episode ones if we thought NXT was a developmental thing, and you said no, not necessarily, right? Like it's its own product, right? And that it's not necessarily to build the roster, even though there have been a lot of examples of people from NXT that have come over and done well in the WWE. So I just will say this. It's really cool that we do know that we're going to have like that big thing. I think it would have been awesome if we didn't know before the Rumble, but it builds a little bit of excitement, and hopefully there's somebody that comes out that we're like, yay, that's awesome. That's really cool.
If I could throw it out there, I know again it's speculation and it's freaking dirt sheet rumors and all that other shit, but of course it came across my timeline, so it intrigued me to check it out. And there's apparently talk about possibly there being another quote unquote Forbidden Door surprise entrant for the men's Rumble too. So I was like, that's pretty freaking big if that's like legit.
Yeah, imagine bringing in like a Hammerstone or something. I mean, obviously there's a lawsuit now, so that probably muddies it. However, imagine someone else popping in. What if Moxley showed up?
What if Moose showed up?
Moose, right? Like,
he's teasing a match with he keeps teasing stuff with Roman. He wants to face Roman. You could even do a
Cardona. You know what I mean? Like, you could do a bunch of stuff that isn't a huge stretch. Like, here's the other thing. Everyone they announced has been in the Royal Rumble before. They didn't announce anybody who hasn't already been in one of the women's Royal Rumbles. So it wasn't like a surprise. It was, oh, is this one coming back or not? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I agree with like what Beard's saying, and I agree with what Justin and Kev both say, where they're like, I only want surprises. But at the end of the day, remember they used to have that wheel where people would come out and pick their numbers? They used to always tell us who was going to be in the Rumble. They would only say 4 or 5 surprises. We just didn't fucking pay enough attention. Go ahead, Beard.
Right. I'm sorry. Did they say Alexa Bliss was in?
For the women's one, they have not said yet.
So
I think she
More than likely, we're gonna get hurt, right?
Yeah.
You're right. There's 11 open spots still in that room,
Yeah.
in the women's room now.
Bailey, I've heard Paige could be a rumor. I've heard.
There's a lot of women that are still potentials. Producer
the
told me she wanted to
partner?
scream at me.
Dirt sheets try to ruin it anyway.
Yeah, so
All the time.
one of the dirt sheets we saw out there just said, like, here's a bunch of spoilers on people we know are coming back. And it's like, I'm not reading that. You know, like,
I didn't see that.
she thinks that part of the reason that WWE went ahead and just said, here's fucking 20 people right away, or 18, I think is what it was just because it's like, well, the dirt sheets are already going to be on these ones anyways.
Yeah.
If they're going to leak it, we might as well say it. Maybe. Go ahead, Beard.
No, all I was saying was like, I'm with you. I hate the movie spoiler stuff and I feel like it's the same thing, but you do have to build some excitement for the
Yes.
pay-per-view. So you got to say some of what's in there. I mean, short of like China coming back from the dead, I'm not going to be completely shocked that anybody runs out into the women's thing, especially if I don't know who they are. But like Bailey and Paige and stuff, those are people that I've gotten acquainted with, even though I have not seen any of. I never saw any of Bailey or Paige's stuff, and I never saw any of Bailey's stuff.
Yeah.
But one that was brought up to me, and I wanted to ask you was, it was a partner to Naomi, a lady. She's a wrestler. They were
Cameron?
Oh, yeah. Ariana?
Yeah.
Cameron.
Maybe give them a run at the women's tag team since there's never been. That would be really cool. I'm a big Naomi fan from what I've seen. Hopefully they end this stupid Sonya Deville thing. She's probably going to be in the Rumble too, right?
Yeah. Can I say that I'm slowly losing a lot of interest in the Naomi and Sonya stuff? Like it's not on TV. Like they take it off TV. And it's for like a little while and you don't see anything of it. And then when you do, it just feels like the same thing over and over. So it's like, can we kind of just like wrap it up a little bit now?
We need a payoff pretty soon. If they end up with a Naomi Sonya match at Mania or Rumble even, neither one of those would really bother me. I'd be okay with that,
Maybe
but it's like
maybe Sonya's a surprise for the Rumble.
Maybe, and then maybe she throws out Naomi.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Let's not have that storyline carry into WrestleMania, though. I mean, if you're going to end RK Bro and other storylines, like, please God, I can only take so much of the person being like, you know, I'm going to be that little girl on the screen.
I would be okay if they finish it off at Mania. The big return of Sonya in an official one-on-one match, Naomi going over whatever. Like, I'd be okay with as long as they don't have like a segment every single week for 15 minutes. I'd be okay if they did enough of a thing to say we're gonna settle this at Mania. You know what I mean? But
Russ Marsh, question for you: you have to care about it, right?
I do.
I don't even know why Naomi is being like treated like shit by Sonya. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think I've ever needed a reason to know why someone was a piece of shit.
No, I got you. I'm just saying, like, give us, like, it feels like they're being lazy with the story is all. Like, give us a little bit more. Why is Sonya pissed at Naomi, or why is she keeping her thumb on her, like, constantly? I'm coming in from Summerslam, right? I don't understand the motivation at all. I think it's the worst story I've seen since I've been back, except for Charlotte's stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know that I've. Go ahead, Justin.
The only thing we know about it is that it's what Naomi wanted to be on TV. She wasn't on any. She wanted a chance to be on TV. They didn't put her on TV. Sonya kept her off for like the longest time, and then finally she just had enough. And that's really the only thing I get from it.
I don't know that I've ever met an asshole piece of shit that I've worked with that had a why.
No, and
all the assholes I've ever worked with were just pieces of shit.
No, I get that, and you're saying you don't need that information, and that's fine, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say what I'm saying is, and
make it better if it was there.
Justin's, like, give us a reason. You can give us backstory. We're supposed to be entertained. Like, give us a little reason. you can feed, like, it just feels lazy from their standpoint. Anyway, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole about this.
I do see what you mean though. Like, would it make it better with a bigger Y? Probably. Could you drag it on longer if you had a better Y? Yeah. It's probably starting to feel stale because there's not a big enough Y.
The small caveat, I think the reason they started it was she probably had an injury that was enough where she could be around, she could rehab and be around everybody and work the shows, but not do anything in ring because they didn't want to injure her. And that, I get that, and we don't need to know that as fans. And but have Naomi have done something to piss Sonya off, like, not just because, honestly, guys, it feels race baity, and I think it's really lowbrow from the WWE. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that a little bit.
Yeah, we don't need it this time. Where we are as a country right now, we don't need that bullshit. Like, you want to do it with some other wrestler, fine, but like,
it would also be hard to come back from. If they really started like saying this is a race thing, it'd be really hard for a character like Sonya to bounce back off of being a racist character on TV.
It feels that way
what I mean?
right now. It feels that way to me a little bit, honestly. When she
A little
was
bit,
doing
yeah.
out of the ring again.
Yeah, she's
Like-
been out for so long. She's just it was almost like they had no idea what to do with her when she came back from the whole stalker incident.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Well, I
talking
mean-
about Sonya. Let me just say this. I actually like what she does as a whatever WWE back of the house person. Like, it's just specifically the Naomi storyline that I am not for. So
I
everything
agree.
else I have no problem with.
As an official, I think she's actually better as an official than she was as just a wrestling character. I think she's found her footing there for sure.
Yeah,
That's
she's
not to
great
say
as
she
an
can't
official.
do both, but I feel like she was struggling finding her footing as a wrestler character, and as an official, she found her footing right away, which I thought was pretty cool.
I felt the
Real quick,
complete
Dream.
opposite, especially because during the pandemic, she was on fire. She was really good. She was doing really well, and then that whole creepy fucking stalker dude kind of fucked all that up.
That's
and now
horrible.
it's just like, yeah, and now it just feels like she's got nothing. That they just threw her into an authority figure, and I was like, oh, that's just kind of shitty.
I got you.
As a fan, I would love to see her destroy Adam Pearce. That would be awesome. Separate them. Move her to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Right? And keep him on Raw or vice versa, whichever one they feel.
They
is
should
the
be on
best
different
match.
shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's awful they're on the same show. And
Yeah.
didn't that work really well? I missed a lot of that when they did the management things. I know Mick Foley was there and stuff where they had the SmackDown manager and stuff. But don't those
It worked
always
way better
a lot
when
of
they had
play?
two separate members.
They
Sorry,
always work
Justin.
way good. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, it worked way better when each brand had its own general manager. This whole both of them running the show thing, not a
Yeah.
fan of it.
Because you had a rivalry between companies that you could put on air. Like there was a while where Stephanie McMahon had one show and Shane McMahon had the other. And so you'd be on Stephanie's show and stuff's happening, and then Shane would show up and people go, oh, he's supposed to be on Raw. You know what I mean? Like, you know?
Yeah. No, that's awesome though. I love that.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's great.
I love that. They're fucking
they're on the
robbing
time.
the fans of that.
Around the
And
time she was running SmackDown and Eric Bischoff was running Raw, or when Paul Heyman was running SmackDown.
Exactly.
And then when you have things like some Survivor Series come around where it's champion versus champion and the teams against teams, remember how Adam Pearce all of a sudden was all like, I don't know if you deserve to be on this team, Ray. It's like, what the fuck do you care? You manage both shows. But
Yeah.
a couple years prior, Shane McMahon would be like, no, I need the best of the best to represent my brand because we're going to kick my sister's ass out there. And you go like, fuck yeah, I'm behind this team because I don't like the other GM. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things you could have done with it. Let's move on to Raw. Beard, you had a bunch of things you wanted to know and talk about on Raw. Go ahead and hit me with it.
I loved Raw. This week was the best
was
Raw
cool.
I've seen since I've been back. So I saw some people being critical of the Alexa Bliss therapy scene. I was a big fan of it because they're building a storyline when she does come back. There's something, you know, it's just an entry thing. Give it a chance, see what happens. I don't know. What did you think, Justin?
I enjoyed it. I thought she felt Harley Quinn to me. How she was all calm and like everything, and then all of a sudden she'd snap. and then she'd go back to calm, and then she'd snap on the doctor again. And I'm like, I really am interested in this. Like she's still got the same look, which I like. I like the I guess dark bliss, if you want to call her that. Like I like this. I think it's gonna be interesting, especially if she's gonna be like a Harley Quinn kind of character where she's like, I can snap at you, but then I'll be all sweet to you and I'll talk all nice to you, and then I'll just start getting at you again. I'm like, yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah, brother, I'm with you. I liked it. I was like, again, we talked before the show. I really am invested in the stories. I do care about the in-ring stuff, but give me good stories. When I was in the Army in the mid 90s and I had this fucking prick for a boss, and I would put on Monday Night Raw and Stone Cold would fucking stun Vince McMahon, I just connected with it. And Vince was fucking him over. So when I go back and watch it, I forget how bad Vince was screwing him over and stuff, but it's like, it just helps the story. You care more if you're emotionally invested in the story, and the wrestling will come, right? You'll get the good wrestling when you have the good wrestlers in the ring. But, give us a story we give a shit about, Yeah.
So I loved the segment. It was one more example, and I've been saying it for almost 2 years now in episode 1s, of enjoy Alexa Bliss while we have her, because Hollywood is going to find her and will take her away from us. She is such a high-level actress. Like,
I thought it was great.
Yeah. I think what she's bringing to the character, I like he said, the back and forth of the polarity of her character. Like, I mean, you're comparing her to Margot Robson. Like, didn't she win an award not that long ago? Like
Margot
Robbie's, yeah.
I don't know, but she's an incredible actress too.
Yeah, and I think that we have Alexa Bliss on loan from Hollywood until they fucking figure it out and steal her away.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. The critical thing I saw was they were like, it was very soap opera-y. I go, that's how I described the WWE for years. How do you watch it? Well, it's a male testosterone-driven soap opera. But now we have women wrestlers we give a shit about.
Yeah.
So you can remove the male testosterone-driven. It's a soap opera. The WWE is supposed to be a soap opera. I want to see soap opera shit, and I want to see soap opera storylines. And if you want, when Stone Cold attacked Vince in the hospital, fucking soap opera, but awesome.
So much.
And to people who say shit like that, if you honestly think character development happens only in the ring between bells, then you haven't been watching wrestling all that closely for very long.
But isn't that what we're missing right now, though? Is we're not getting enough of out-of-ring character development. And the stuff that we are getting is not great. Okay? Like, some of it is not great.
It's a mix.
I could do without the Happy and Madcap stuff all the time. Like, it's... And look, Matt, you know what's sort of taken away from Madcap is actually quite good in the ring. And I know you loved his Drew McIntyre. Like, that was really good. That was good.
I thought he was McIntyre for probably 10 minutes.
That was Smackdown.
You know how bad,
we're already on to Raw.
Remember how bad that night? All I wanted to tweet out was the only thing that Madcap needs to do to be Drew McIntyre is just sit there and move his mouth. All we need is Marsh to just voice him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like McIntyre. And again, like, he is one of the few baby faces. It's a really unfortunate he got hurt. And I told you, I called that when we were watching. I go, oh, that is, remember when he hit him with that scaffolding with the chair over? I go, something wasn't right. It looked wrong right away. It looked like they underestimated what it would do. I actually don't think his injury is part of the story. I think that is a real injury.
I think it might be a real injury, but I also think it's very, very possible that he had an injury and they wanted to do something on screen that would look like it would give him that injury to explain it.
I think the scaffolding with the chair thing was like the way to write him off.
But did you see, Justin, like that looked like with Ricochet hitting, what's his name in the nose? You knew he fucked his nose up, right? And then they tweeted a picture and stuff. To me, that looked legit, like a legit performance injury.
I'm going to be honest with you. In my gut, I think Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, and Madcap are all such high-level performers that you wouldn't know if they were trying to make a fake injury happen.
I would love to see that stable thing you were talking about, though, where he runs a stable of like Sheamus and stuff like that. And he could be a heel. I would be fine with that. I'm just saying, like, I do like an end ring. I think he's good, like really good.
I mean, I just said a compliment. I think all three of them are high level. I think Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre are the highest level. I think Madcap's still getting there, but I think Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre are the highest level performers and athletes that they have. I think they're A-list. They are main eventers. You could actually put Drew versus Baron Corbin as a Mania main event. To me, I won't scoff. I know some people will, but I wouldn't.
Over Randy Orton?
You can put Randy Orton there too. I see them in the same boat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I agree with them as in-ring performers. I agree with that.
And I think that they're capable of making something look so realistic that we are pretty positive that's where he got hurt. And it could very well be that a week before he was throwing football with his son and fucking threw his arm out. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they're so good and skilled at what they do that looked like the injury because it was meant to look like it's the injury, not necessarily because it was the injury.
You're probably right.
They're just so good at what they do.
Yeah. So I have something for Justin. I wanted to ask because I felt like they moved off this quick, but once you said that, there was that thing where all those wrestlers got targeted, and one of them was Omos. I was wondering, they kind of moved off the AJ Styles Omos betrayal really fast. But I wanted to ask our fellow Mount Rushmore having AJ Styles on there, Justin, do you like what they're doing with AJ with the NXT? And I'm sorry, I don't know the guy he wrestled, and I know he wrestled him yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. If I could say that I was right to Bishop, I would say it all the time, because I know he's not a fan. He wasn't a fan of Grayson Waller at all, because he always came off as the guy that just looked like he was going to be that really athletic guy, but he didn't have a set character to him. Now he's got that whole, if you need me on your show to make your show better, he's got that appeal to him right now. And that is what Grayson Waller is like. And him having AJ, as Marsh said, it feels like the old NXT where he's like his pro. He's his pro to his rookie, and it's like perfect. It was so like the perfect person to use was AJ Styles for Grayson Waller, especially when AJ called him an AJ Styles like knockoff. Like I was like, this is really interesting, and I was so excited for that match last night, and I fucking love that match.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because I was, and again, a lot of times I defer to your guys' opinion because I'm just kind of relearning some of the stuff, but I felt like maybe AJ was putting too many people over because they had the Omos thing, then the Austin Theory, and then this thing, and it just felt like he was doing a lot. And I know it's because he's capable. And you being a big fan of his, and me kind of being like, oh, okay, well, Justin thinks very highly of this guy. AJ
is always a good person to use if you need to put somebody over. Because if you beat AJ Styles, that's a big deal.
You think he's putting too many over them?
No.
Okay.
No, because I could kind of see it like maybe it is AJ feeling like it's getting to that time for him. Like maybe he's like, I gotta put over like a shit ton of people, because if I end up like ever leaving, there's all these people that are ready to go.
Mm-hmm. I do have one thing that falls along with that AJ Omos thing. Then they put Omos against that like local wrestler that was like, he looked like a 12-year-old boy. I mean, I would have looked like a 12-year-old boy, and I'm 230. You know,
what's happened to me
225. I'm 225.
Next to Omos.
Yeah, to Omos. But like, I almost felt like it wasn't fair to Omos. Like he should have actually just gotten a regular player. Like I was like, why are they doing this? Because let's see what he can do in the ring instead of just being.
They did that with Braun Strowman when he was there. They used to give him all the local talent like that and have him run through local talent just to show you how dominant he was. And that's what they did with Omos, because they're like, oh, look, he can just decimate anybody in the blink of an eye. And
okay,
that was
but
what they...
in fairness, the guy has to look like he can maybe beat. Oh my, you know what I'm saying? I don't feel like that helps his character.
You should have seen some of the guys they put with Strowman.
with
It
Braun?
was ridiculous. Yeah.
The people they used to put against Ryback.
It's one of those things that, I mean, it comes into like super old school. It becomes a very old school mentality of like, I mean, the Heavy Machinery, when they were on their big run, proving themselves as a tag team, they put them up against two guys who were the quote Yolo County champions. And they literally had cardboard box cutouts of championship belts with marker on them, and they were holding them in the ring. Like sometimes
but that's
they're really
awesome and cool. This was like not. This was like me going to like a kindergarten classroom and just like picking on a kid and throwing him down and like putting my foot on it. I felt anyway. Maybe a misstep, but you guys are saying they do that all the time. I like the local talent thing, no problem.
Okay.
But like, put them up against somebody like Ricochet or somebody where they
right.
actually wrestle them.
No.
But here's a dude he can pick up and throw 10 feet in the air. So when he does it to this kid, you're like, well, yeah, it's a little kid guy, whatever. But then when he gets to like an Otis and chucks him 5 feet in the air, you go, holy shit. Like he could even do it on, you know what I mean? It's just building little tiny mentalities in our mind. But like, yeah. Sometimes you go, come on, you could do more. But at the same time, does he have to do more now? We've got a long ways to go. So I'm okay with it, but I definitely understand what you're saying.
So the next thing from Raw, I was a big fan of the Edge and the Glamazon thing. Again, I didn't get to see Beth Phoenix wrestle at all, and she's in the Hall of Fame. So
Yes.
I loved her look when she has come back. And I know that Edge they've been talking like the end is nigh, right? We know we're not going to get a lot more Edge. Hopefully we get a lot. I was a big fan of it. I know everybody, it gives the Miz something to do too. Like, and everybody's like, oh, it's the Miz being the Miz and the same old Miz. But like, oh, I haven't seen any of that. So I'm happy to see it and I've enjoyed it. I don't know. How do you feel?
See, I'm not crazy for it really at all. I'm not a Miz fan, and it's not.
Well, hold on. I specifically the Edge and Beth Phoenix stuff.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay.
Edge just isn't enough. Edge, and now even throwing Beth in here just doesn't get me interested in it. Like,
okay. Is it because you've
Maurice-
seen it so much with the Miz and Maurice, or?
I've seen Miz wrestle. I've seen Maurice wrestle. I know how good Beth is. Maurice to me is not that good. So even throwing her in this match just doesn't do it. Like, it's not
Justin,
like it doesn't do it for me to make me give a damn for this. Throwing Maurice in there doesn't do it. And then just because you threw Beth in there, yeah, it's cool to see Beth back, but it just doesn't work.
So let me throw this out there because I was thinking about it too. And Edge and Beth together as a team is so fucking cool. They have such great chemistry for obvious reasons. They're such total badasses and psychopaths in the ring, and I love it.
Me too.
Yes.
But Miz and Maurice are a couple of wet farts in a soggy bag.
Yes.
And we've seen Maurice wrestle terribly for years.
You got a comedy troupe there with the producing lady.
She's my Ed McMahon. I keep her around.
Yeah.
The thing is with as much respect as I can say for someone like Maurice, who has probably paved the way at certain points, and I've definitely heard that she always tried and was training and always wanted to do better. At the end of the day, I don't think she ever could keep up with the talent that we have now. I don't think she could keep up with Beth Phoenix. I'm not trying to be an asshole. At the end of the day, when you think about couples wrestling, I think the problem with this story, the reason it's such a soggy, squirty fart is just such an oily discharge of a match, I think comes from the fact that we know that Seth and Becky are right there. You could do an Edge and Beth against a Seth and Becky and actually go, I think I'm into this and this is going to be great.
Well, maybe
Or
they
you
built
say
it.
they could get there after this. But it means we have to get through this oily discharge of Maurice versus Beth Phoenix and Miz and Edge. And you go, okay, It's probably going to be a safe match. It's probably going to be fine. But an Edge, Beth versus Seth and Becky could main event. This match shouldn't be even the opener. It really should either be kickoff or third match. This is like,
Yeah.
Maurice isn't gonna impress, and that's the thing. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but she's never impressed before. So it's just one of those things where it's all like, look, they're safe in the ring, yes, but they're also not so good that you go, oh my god, do you remember that Miz match? Miz and Dolph, yeah.
But that's okay though. You're not gonna have. Not everything has to be the greatest match you've ever seen. Not everything has to be the Undertaker and the Steel Cage. You know,
right?
I feel like I just talked about how the storyline should be important, and if you have the Miz on your roster and you have Maurice on your roster, and obviously they do a lot of their own reality stuff that I think helps build wrestling too. They bring in casual fans, so you got to have them on the show every once in a while. So I just don't feel like it's as bad as you're making it seem. As someone, you don't like it because you've seen a lot of them. I have seen none of them. So like,
I haven't even seen a ton of Maurice. It's just that I've never seen a good Maurice payoff. I've seen better Miz payoffs, and that's what I mean. Like, you have to be invested in the story, yes. But at the end of the day, I don't need a tremendous match all the time. But if we're going to put a period at the end of a storyline, I am going to need that great match at the end of it. You know what I mean?
You don't think the Miz and the Edge can deliver a good match? I don't know. I want to wait and see with that one.
I'll say their day one match was actually really good.
Yes, it was. And I think Edge and Miz could. I think by implanting Maurice in there, no matter who you put her in the ring with, there's going to be weirdness in it. You know what I mean? It will bring the match down.
Here's one thing I thought about specifically with this storyline, because it's widely believed that the Edge, Adam Copeland, isn't going to wrestle for very much longer. And that it was a miracle that we got him back in the first place. And that because I think the bulk of Beth's career, he was already retired, right? So they probably didn't get to do a shit ton of stuff together. Again, you may tell me I'm completely wrong and they did a ton together and whatever, but they're getting the opportunity to do stuff together. So I feel like we're kind of getting to witness sort of the end of the Rated R Superstar and the Glamazon. And, they're both obviously Hall of Famers and stuff, but it's so cool that we get to kind of see these living legends kind of finish out their careers. And I do hope we get a Becky and Seth versus Edge and because that sounds like there might be some real shit behind that, right? So I don't know.
He broke into their goddamn house. You don't think Becky?
They kind of left that for dead too, didn't they? They kind of had to have an opponent for Roman Reigns after all this COVID stuff happened. I actually felt like
the feud from the start. That's why the take from the feud from the start was never really of any interest to me, because it just felt like bottom of the barrel reaching with the Miz.
Here's the deal: Miz is good. He's solid. He's solid on the mic. He's clean in the ring. I mean, it wasn't until this past year that he got injured, and he'd never been injured before or injured anybody. There's a lot of respect I have for Miz and Maurice, as much as it sounds like I don't. But I really, truly do. But at the end of the day, a Miz rivalry is a safe rivalry, and that's all it is. And I think that when we see an Edge go for Miz and it's not his first match back, you start questioning, why is this happening? Because if Edge came back and immediately feuded with Miz, you go, oh, because it's safe. It'll be good. It'll be fun. We'll get to the end, and it's going to be safe, and it'll get him his reps. But at this juncture where we've already had Randy and Seth and I just don't see why you and Reigns and Daniel Bryan, at this point, Edge doesn't need reps. He needs moments. And I don't think you get a moment with Miz. I just don't. But let me hit the chat real quick. Grim Reaper coming through saying, hi, 'cause that's how he talks. And says, pourquoi? Because of what I'm saying about Maurice, I'm sure. And then it says, ooh wee. I think that's how you say that. I'm not good with French.
He's quoting Maurice's theme song.
Is not the best at French or theme songs. Jeremy in Time, co-host of JustinTime Wrestling Podcast on most platforms now. Keep looking on all your platforms till you find it. I will say their logo, beautiful. Says, what was that?
I said thank you for that amazing logo.
As soon as he's like, I'm doing an in-time wrestling podcast, also like, I've got an idea.
You did that the night it was you, me, and Bishop, and you did that on the fly. That was amazing.
As we're talking. It was funny. Because I knew he's not a video podcast. I can draw while he's asking me questions. It's great. But Jeremy says the only redeeming quality to that feud is seeing Miz and Maurice get the shit kicked out of them by both Edge and Beth. I like that, though.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's the one thing I've always said is as long as if Miz and Maurice get to look like the fool at any time, it's always a thumbs up in my book.
Well, and they will in this case. They're not gonna beat Beth and Edge, and they're not supposed to. But it is filler, and at least there's an effort with this story. And so I am not gonna be a negative about it. I'm okay with it, and I understand. I get why you guys. I get it. I understand. I understand. So let's talk about the inevitable betrayal.
Wait. Oh, we'll get there. I'm gonna finish the comments real quick in the chats. Scarby said, "Oh my God, stop!" And I think it's because of the oily discharge.
Don't read that. That's
oily discharge.
We'll move past that.
We'll move past comments.
We'll just keep going. That's
a domestic thing that doesn't need to be discussed about.
Grimmer says. Grimber says this match is a showcase for Edge and Beth as a team to face Rollins and Becky down the line. This is a one-time match for this feud. They will move on after this. Grim Reaper, I swear to God, don't tease me like that.
Yeah, they're going to move on. They're not going to keep this going for any length of time.
I know, but if they can get to Edge and Seth, or to Seth and Becky, that would be fucking money right there.
A lot has to happen with their two. I mean, Seth is going to wrestle Roman Reigns, and Becky's got to defend the title for the 90th fucking time since she's been back.
All right, I need to slow down. I get it. I got to...
Well, no, but I'm saying we can't complain about and I'm saying specifically for me, we can't complain about a lack of story, and then the one time they actually have a story that they've built, whether you guys like it or not, be like, oh, I don't like the story, So that's how
the story doesn't have to be a bloody fart, but I hear you. Beard, what was your next topic?
I just was gonna say the inevitable betrayal of Rhea Ripley by Nikki ASH, which they had to do something there because Nikki ASH kept being the reason they lost, and whatever. I mean, I was fine with that tag team being broken up. I'd like to see those two wrestle on their own. I mean, Rhea should be in the mix for the championships and stuff. She's so good at the ring. She's physically
she's
would be
an action movie star.
Yeah, she does look like a movie star too. I think she's really impressive. I'm such a big fan of her. I like Nikki ASH too.
Rhea Ripley could be the star of a reboot of a female Fast and Furious. She's a badass.
Or she could play the Furiosa in the Furiosa movie. She does happen to be Australian too, right? So they film all those Mad Max movies in Australia. So anyway, I know we didn't get a lot of it, but it was kind of, I did enjoy that whole thing. I was going to be conflicted, but I felt like, honestly, once they did, I was like, oh, they have done that. They've been together long enough that it is time for that to probably move on with the story. So,
Justin, I remember very specifically that you had some almost like Bishop trademarked horrible takes on this particular thing. I wanted you to go ahead and shoot that out.
Yeah, I thought it was surprising, especially due to the fact that Nikki was the one to turn, not Rhea, because I honestly thought it was going to be Rhea.
I liked it.
I want this to end up resulting, if this is going to be Nikki going back to Let's Play Nikki, and that's what I want to see.
Or you can get a mix.
That'd be interesting, but...
You get an amalgamation of it. I could see that. I think the problem is Rhea is such a fucking. I mean, this was a tough one. You had two like super baby faces in the team. Who do you really turn heel, and who do you have babyface? I think Nikki's the more interesting route because Rhea's going to be fine either way. Nikki is going to have to work for it, and I think she's willing to work for it. And she's the small one, right? So the only part of me that's like, well, this is a bit of a bummer, is I really feel like at the end of this, Rhea gets the solid win. And you get... Go ahead.
Well, Rhea is an obvious easy heel, right? I think it will be more interesting if Nikki ASH is the heel, right?
Well, we've seen them both heel. I mean, if
I haven't.
Yeah, I know you haven't, but we've seen them. We've seen what they're both like heel, and they're both great heels.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
that's true. They've both done both, and they've actually both done very well in both iterations. If I'm being honest.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. I'm a fan of both characters, and whether they're heel or not, I'm happy to see them progress. I think with the women's division in a whole, I'm all for that division getting more airtime. I feel like it is the creme de la creme right now on both things. Smackdown, maybe not so much because of one certain individual, but outside of that, I really have been a fan of the matches. They have less time, less air, and they do so much more than the men, and they never fucking mail it in. So I really, that could lead to what we wanted to talk about at the end. But did you want to talk about new tag team champs? Speaking of partnerships ending, are we going to see the end?
Not yet, Justin. You had some tweets about this. I'm trying to give you a little bit of a platform here because you said you weren't going to do a Raw episode. You're going to do an AEW episode. Did you want to talk about what you think about the tag championships?
Raw with the men's tag titles or the women's?
The women's.
We're talking women's. I think it's time to hang them up. What else do you have? You have your champions are your only team. What do you do? There's nothing.
Who's the champion right now? That's
Carmella
and Zelina.
Yeah, they're the only team now in the division. It is time to hang up the titles.
I'll be honest, dude. Like, here's the thing: is the amount of work that was put in to make those titles appear to begin with, and the idea that it even happened at all was so fucking monumental. There's a huge part of me that doesn't want it to go away, but I do agree that they have to lean into a women's tag team division. However, I've started listening to Wrestling with Freddie, the Freddie Prinze Jr. podcast.
Really? He does
fucking,
Freddie Prinze does a wrestling podcast, huh?
He was a writer for WWE for like a year, 2 years, I think. One of the things he mentioned was whenever he said that he spent a lot of time writing ideas for tag teams. And at one point, Vince said to him, "Here's the deal, Freddie. I have to pay 4 guys for 1 match." And it was strictly a business decision of, we don't invest in a shitload of tag teams because it costs twice the amount of money for the same length of story.
Well, let me say this too, though. Like what they're doing with the Viking Raiders, they just aren't doing well with tag teams in general. I don't think it's just specific to the women's division.
What they're doing with the Viking Raiders, because
they're ruining them. Like
they're trying to turn them into the Bushwhackers, and I don't like that.
I'm just saying it's tough because, like, I get if that's the mentality up top, it makes it tough. Because us as fans, we're taking what we see on TV, right? I love that there's a women's tag team championship. I love that title. Like, that was a belt when it came out, that when the replica came out, I bought it right away. Because I think the title is beautiful and I think what it means is beautiful. I also think, like, how badass is it that my nieces were both born the same year that title came out? Or no, they were like 2? They were 2 when the titles came out. How cool is it to have 2 nieces that are so close in age don't know a world where WWE Women's Tag Team Championships aren't a thing. And I know that that's the mentality that Bayley and Sasha approached it with when they wanted to make those titles into a reality. So for me, like, I hear you that they're not investing enough in it, but there's such a big part of me that goes, I don't want little girls to have to dream that same dream again. Bayley and Sasha already did the legwork. They already had that dream. They already saw it through. I don't want a new generation of young women trying to make something happen again. But I do think that there needs to be, at the very least, an amalgamation of tag teams that maybe perform independently. Maybe you have two women who are tag teaming up regularly, but also have a lot of singles runs. Like, maybe you branch out a little bit just because from a numbers standpoint, if you only have 20 women in your entire roster, you can't have 10 of them wrapped up in tag teams. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the things I would say too is you don't have to have the themed tag team. You just have to have a tag team that makes sense, right? So Zelina and Carmella made sense, blah, blah, blah. It worked out. And we had Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley, and really outside of that is nothing. But we just talked about Naomi having the other lady come with her and be a tag team there. There are possibilities where they could make that shit work. They just have to put effort into it. Yes. And we need to see that from them. And that's where I'm at with it.
This is a prime example as to why I got so disappointed with all the releases, because it tanked so much of the roster that it really was not a good thing. It didn't really benefit anything. It fucked the women's division up big time to where each division has like 5 women, it feels like. Like the releases did nothing but cause more damage than it did be a good thing.
I mean, from our perspective, yeah. And I only say that because you just never know the other perspectives. But I do think that there's got to be at least a semi-level storyline of women who are connected in one way or another. Like, have these 3 women tags. Like, remember back when they were doing the Naomi and Sasha and Tamina, and was it Team Bay? And they had a bunch of them. Have more of these 3 women little factions of people who ostensibly look like friends in the back. So when they team, it makes sense. But when they do a solo thing, it also makes sense because there's only 2 women in a tag team, right? Like, you don't need every woman to be the New Day. But if you had a few 3 women groupings that were always hanging out backstage in little promos and stuff, then you could say, oh, well, it makes sense why those 2 might team, and it makes sense why the other one might be doing a singles run. But at least get that mentality of team to be circulating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just, that's why I'm still disappointed that they broke up Natty and Tamina. I don't get why you did that. Like, that makes...
Yeah, that was rough. That one hurt.
Yeah. Like, the only thing I could think of is if the Bellas, since they're going to be in the Rumble, the only thing I could think of is if they stick around, because then at least gives a team for a little while something.
Yeah, something. And that could be cool.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
I do think...
Yeah, now then it adds to 2 teams again, but then it's like, you gotta, like, maybe it is time to start calling some women up from NXT. Something. Just something to give the women something, because I wasn't crazy for the tag titles when they first came around, but I started to like them because it felt like they actually tried, and then it turned into teams breaking up like constantly to where there was nothing left of it. Yeah. And it's almost like you have to make the decision now to start getting more teams together, or it's come down to where you have to just end it.
Yeah. I think that a decision's got to be made, but I think that for me, I'm fighting that they do something that at least gets the conversation going. Even if they bring the Bellas back just to have a tag title rivalry to keep them relevant for a bit while they start building up new teams, I'm okay with that. But like, Yeah, as soon as Zoe Stark's legs are healed, I think bring her and Io up as a tag team is perfectly fine. I think use the Women's Dusty Cup in NXT as a showcase to bring up like at least 4 teams, so you can have 2 on each brand.
Something.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, do something
Yeah.
with it. But I agree entirely. What do you think about the idea, real quick, before Beard comes back? What if, as long as we're talking about the Rumble a little bit,
Too late, I'm back.
what do you think about if Mickie James takes out Charlotte and we end up with a Charlotte versus Mickie James match, TNA champion versus Smackdown champion at Mania?
That'd be very, very interesting. Like,
It's literally the only interesting match I can think of for Charlotte.
yeah, because I don't really know. Because if now with the whole thing with Sasha being out, it kind of takes out any possibility of who's gonna challenge Charlotte, unless
Yes.
you make it a surprise. Unless you make it some kind of surprise, like somebody's gonna have to come back, or you're gonna have to pull the trigger on just something big for Charlotte at this point.
100%. That's how I feel.
On that note, you think they made a mistake? Not make a mistake, but Sasha Banks' injury shows how thin the SmackDown women's division is
Yes.
already. Plus,
Yeah.
because Tony left too, right? So you have
Yeah.
Tony and Sasha being out of the mix. Those
Yeah.
were going to be important players in that whole thing. Now they're both gone for an extended period of time. You almost think it might have been better to keep Bianca or somebody on the.
It's true.
I mean, not going to do Becky anymore because that sounds like that's played out, and I don't know that she would agree to wrestle her ever.
Yeah, as somebody who's never been a fan of the brand split, this is the kind of example that I would like to see. This is the thing about the whole having the titles having the titles be exclusive to the brand. The challengers can float around, because that way it gives Charlotte more opponents. It gives the Raw Women's Champion more opponents. It also makes Survivor Series feel important, because again, the championships are exclusive to the brand.
That's the most fascinating concept about a brand split I've ever heard. I was about to yell at you for a while, but the idea of keep as many champions as we have now, but keep them exclusive and have every challenger float around between all brands. That's absolutely fascinating, because I've always heard people saying, "Oh, unify all the titles," and I'm like, "That's bullshit."
I'm not a fan of that. Like when Brock threw that out about champion versus champion, I'm like, so he's talking title for title here. I'm like, no, do not unify those titles. It did not work when the Undertaker did that, and he was going from show to show. It didn't work for it worked for a little bit, but it didn't after a while.
I think it
You
burns
need
out
to
too many
have two
champions.
separate titles.
I fucking love this idea of keep the champions show specific and keep challengers moving from storyline to storyline, championship. I think that's
Titles are exclusive, and how I thought of it was
fucking smart.
a year, like since you have brand exclusive like tag titles and women's titles, you can find some way to make the other 2 titles and then like keep them for a year on the one brand and then swap them every year.
Yeah. The drafting would then at that point just be the championship drafts.
Well,
Yes.
the thing I would say too, though, is I'm
Go ahead.
imagining that a lot of the wrestlers' personal lives outside of wrestling kind of dictated that they wanted a little bit more of a regular schedule. And if you have a wrestler that typically wrestles on Monday and then you move them to Friday, I think that's probably why they did the brand thing. So you can give people the appropriate time off and you're not burning people out. And like you said, the Undertaker tried it, but it was, even as consummate a professional as he is, it probably just in the end was too much. And it wears on the wrestler. The in-ring product is going to be worn down. So I think that's why they did what they did.
That was around the time he was undisputed champion. And just think, he was on both shows. That was before they introduced the world title.
But I think what Justin's saying is not that like, hey, Seth Rollins, every single challenger shows up on every single show every week.
No.
It's
No,
that
I
you
get
have
that.
programs that are like, hey, for the next 4 months I'm working on Mondays, and then for the next 6 months I'll be on Fridays. It just depends on how the stories work out, and you just kind of rotate them accordingly in that regard. which
No,
I
and
think could be great. But I agree with
No, I
you. You don't want to
understand
have
that.
all of them.
No, I understood that from the get-go, and I'm not trying to poo-poo Justin's opinion at all. I like what you were saying. I'm just saying I'm guessing the evolution of the brand stuff was to give them all kind of a routine and a schedule, right? I mean,
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Beard, you had some stuff to say about the tag team championships. Go ahead and hit it.
just we have a new tag team championship on the men's side. The Alpha Academy beat RK Bro. Is this the end of RK Bro?
What do you think, Justin?
I don't think it is yet. I do think it's coming. It's gonna suck. But I was happy that Gable and Otis won the tag team titles. It's to see Otis finally win a title, and then as Marsh was talking about, the tweet that Chad Gable put out, it made it feel more meaningful, more wholesome, more like
What did he say? I didn't see.
He was talking about how because him and Otis were best friends, and how Otis moved into a house nearby with him while they started their wrestling journey, and how they do all their training and everything together. And it was this just feels so much more wholesome and more meaningful now. I'm gonna be crushed when RK Bro break up. I know it's coming. It's gonna freaking suck because I love those two together as a team. I love the whole Goofy Riddle bounces off Serious Orton. They mesh together and it turns into just an enjoyable tag team.
Well, and I don't know if you saw this, but Marsh and I talked about this a while back. We said it really seems like Randy Orton just enjoys he doesn't have to always be the hard ass. It feels like
I said that to my brother a bunch of times. I'm like, do you think Randy Orton loves this? Because I seriously do. I think he loves this with Matt Riddle right now. And I see it. I see it in him. He just seems like he loves doing this right now. And I think he's trying to make it last before the two of them end up
Separating,
breaking apart, and then going into something else.
So I think there's two aspects to this that I want to throw out there. One, I think this means we're going to end up with Matt Riddle versus Randy Orton in WrestleMania for a one-on-one, which is going to be phenomenal.
Yes.
of course.
But the second part is that tweet. I want to read it out because Beard said he didn't hear it. Chad Gable posted a picture of them with the titles and then posted this wording. There's winning championships, and then there's achieving dreams alongside your best friend. Otis and I have been talking about a night like last night since we were training for the Olympics together in Colorado Springs in 2011. The Alpha Academy relationship is much more than a tag team. It's been a brotherhood for 10 plus years. After getting called up to Raw, I jokingly told Otis there was a house for sale up the street from me if he wanted to move in. Within days, he told me to he put in an offer and would be there in a few weeks. Since then, he's come over nearly every single day for us to leave puddles of sweat in my garage and some of the grittiest training sessions you could ever imagine. I mean, and also as a sidebar, just think about this. 2 Olympic level athletes training together, probably brutal. All with the goal of continually making progress in this profession and in life. I could not be happier or more proud of this man, my protege, my prized pupil, my number one guy, but most importantly, my friend. We did it. # Alpha Academy.
Nice.
That's a story I wish played out a little bit more on screen.
It does feel like, though, it does a bit because they work so well together as a team. It does feel like they did have a good relationship.
Yes,
You know.
but I think talking about how they've known each other since Olympic training in 2011 would have been nice to know.
Yes.
Because none of us understood why they were suddenly a tag team.
Oh, you mean they never built any of this? So they were a tag team when I showed up. So I never saw the Otis with the beard or any of that stuff.
They were both in a really, really awesome tag team together. Like they were both in 2 different awesome tag teams
Yes.
at the time. But both their partners, one's, I guess, quote unquote retired. I don't really know. And the other one got released.
Yeah. And then suddenly they were a tag team and none of us knew why. I wish they expanded a little bit on the history between Otis and Chad on why they would have teamed together. All that aside, reading something like that just makes you go, fuck yes for these guys.
Ref Marsh, 5 minutes between like 6 shows could have done exactly what you just said, and they just needed to take the time to do it. And I agree, because in ring I was like, hey, these guys are pretty good, but and are they heels, but they're sort of likable. I mean, like, I went to Full Sail. I don't want to like shit on Full Sail's cool, man. Like, I like Full Sail. So I had a great experience there. I just decided I didn't want to be in college. So I'm with you. I just feels like this is all about the WWE when it comes to this story, mailing it the F in half the time. And I don't want to say that. I don't want to say negative stuff. I want to say, this is cool. I love this. So I want to, and I didn't know any of that. I didn't know they were partners or on the Olympic team or anything. I did like their in-ring chemistry and stuff and thought they were really good. Yes. And I was like, and I like their music. Isn't it very Angle-esque too? Yes. It does feel very Angle-esque. Like, bah, bah, you suck, bah, bah.
I think that's on purpose. But it definitely could have taken a moment where I was like, well, that's pretty cool for them, to a moment that could have been emotional otherwise. But at the same time, I guess they're heels. Maybe you don't want to dig into that. But there was a moment where after I read that, I was like, oh, I could have gotten choked up when I was watching last night if I'd known that part of the story.
Yeah, Chad Gable looks a lot like Kurt Angle, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, up until Gable Steveson, Chad Gable was the only other Olympic amateur wrestler to be in WWE outside of Kurt Angle.
Well, Brock Lesnar.
He wasn't in the Olympics, was he?
No.
I think he was just a collegiate level champion. I don't think he ever went to the Olympics.
He was an NCAA champion. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he was an Olympic athlete. And I think Chad Gable was the only other Olympic athlete specifically. And then obviously Ronda Rousey was Olympic judo, but that's not to take away anything from Brock Lesnar. I swear to God, if someone tells Brock Lesnar I said a mean thing about him, fuck.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't Olympic.
No, but with the high level, but he was a national champion.
Yes, absolutely high level, just not Olympic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away from the Olympic athletes too, because Olympic athletes are on such a level that I think is almost unfathomable by average humans. Was there another spot you want to talk about?
Yeah, the last thing of the night for me was I was so impressed with how they closed out Raw. Producer lady had been talking about this too. They had been doing such a shit job with the women's stuff in general, not giving them enough time. And the stuff they were giving enough time to, Charlotte, wasn't worth the time. That triple threat match between Liv, Bianca, and Doudrop was awesome. I did not give a shit who won. I loved it. I loved that Becky Lynch tried to man slam Doudrop and got all scared. I hope she loses the title to Doudrop. Do we want her to be called Doudrop when she's the champion? I don't know. I know they filed for the Piper Niven thing. I'm kind of hoping she gets to grow that horrible character that was formed under the lady. They cut her, right?
Yeah. So
she was around when I came around. So I kind of got to see all of Doudrop kind of be around. I thought the match was great. The story, sorry about that. There's a little feedback there or something. Maybe I'm a little too far. Sorry, Bone is becoming the unofficial mascot. Rocks here. And he does, I do end up being a Bone. What's going on, man?
Sorry. Talking about Doudrop, Bianca, and Liv. So I thought if you want to say anything about it, you could. But yeah, the idea that match went several segments. All I could think about too was like this particular Raw had independent segments of promos from Liv, Doudrop, Bianca. It had a promo with Becky Lynch, which was interrupted by those women as well. Becky Lynch was on commentary. You had this match that went. You had Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley, which realistically was just a very long promo segment. You had Beth Phoenix on the Edge thing. You had a ton. What's up?
And Maurice,
And Maurice. Yeah, you had a lot of women representation in here on SmackDown. Also, a ton of women were on there for good chunks of time. And all I could think about is real fucking quiet from that end of the dirt sheets that like to time all the women's matches when they're short. Can you just, like, here's the deal.
It was awesome.
You have to make companies accountable by saying you're not giving enough time. You've did this number of minutes in the women's Queen's Crown tournament. Yes. But at the same time, when they've had like 3 shows back to back to back, because I want to say the Raw before this SmackDown and this Raw, 50% of the show was the women. And
well, day one too.
Day one had a ton of women. If you can't hit that fucking clicker for that and say, hey, women had a collective hour and a half of Raw, then are you really being a journalist or are you just being a fucking gossip monger? Because at the end of the day, if the idea is holding the companies accountable for when they do wrong, you have to celebrate them when they do right. Because the thing is companies in general respond to noise, not silence. And if you're fucking silent when you give a woman 30-minute matches to main event Raw, they won't do it again. Be loud. Be loud in saying and celebrating that this match happened with 3 women who arguably by some might not be ready for a main event spot, but they definitely showed that they were. They showed up. It was a long match that didn't feel long. They did a tremendous job, and please be loud and tweet about it and put it out there that not only was it great, but we want more. Because if all you do is say you only gave them 2 minutes, but you're not willing to say, thank God you gave them 30, they're not going to keep doing the latter. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. I will say this unequivocally, since I've been back, SummerSlam, I thought it was the best Raw I've seen. It was so good. And it's because the women are the better of the wrestlers. They're doing the better storytelling. They're doing the better in-ring stuff. It was so good. You had I guarantee you Bishop would agree with me because Becky Lynch was a part of it, right? She helped build a lot of this. And so I just freaking loved it. Like I said, there was not a lot of weakness from that Raw, and the women carried the entire show. It was awesome. And I think what it does do to the critics that say they don't get enough time, or the people who are like, I don't like women's wrestling or whatever, is it shows that you could have, yes, we had the Alpha Academy winning the tag team in RK Bro, and that's a big deal. And there were some other men's matches and stuff on there that were too, like the Omos thing and stuff like that. But AJ Styles and in Austin Theory, all that stuff. Those were sort of the weaker part of the show. The women's stuff was all really strong. I know you guys didn't like the Maurice and stuff, but I was a really big fan of that match, and it does take a lot for me to say I didn't care who won, but I think I was just so delightfully happy that they had made that like the main event for the night.
Yes.
I just like to see them do that like once a month, you know?
Yeah. So there's 2 sides to I don't care who wins. There's an I don't care who wins because I don't give a shit about this match. And there's an I don't care who wins because I care so much about everyone in this match. And that was the side that you were on. I think that's the side a lot of us were on, was who's going to face Becky at Rumble. I almost don't care because if it's Liv or Bianca or Doudrop, I don't have a negative on one of those. I can't say this one will be better than the other one. I don't see a negative from any of them. So that's like the best side of I don't care who wins. In the chat real quick, Grim Reaper did say Lesnar was not in the Olympics, NCAA champion. Kurt Angle always goes about Chad Gable on his pod. And then says, I like the spot at the end that Becky tried using the manhandle slam on Doudrop and couldn't do it. They're also telling a really great story here of Becky Lynch not wanting to face Bianca again. She doesn't want Bianca one-on-one in the face of it. She did everything she could to get Bianca out of that match because she's afraid of Bianca, which has a lot of people thinking maybe we get Bianca and Becky for Mania, which could be fucking fantastic.
Do we need Becky as the champion anymore? We don't. She can do other things. Let's do the Beth Phoenix. Let's do that. Like, we don't need Becky for. I feel like we don't.
we need Becky right now, but I agree with you that we don't probably need Becky as a champion after Mania.
Why can't Doudrop win the title
at Rumble?
Yeah, let's have Doudrop win the title.
Because Doudrop versus anybody at Mania doesn't mean much.
Yeah. Doudrop versus Bianca wouldn't be a good show.
It would be a good show, but it's a match we've seen 3 times on Raw, and what does it matter if it's on Mania? Because who the fuck is Doudrop? That's not to discount them. I'm saying Billboard.
I got you, and I understand, and I'm not trying to. I'm asking questions.
Yeah,
Justin,
yeah.
what do you think?
See, I did enjoy the match. I'm just so not into. I'm just gonna fucking say it, even though I haven't been saying it because I hate saying it, but I'm gonna say her name anyway, like it is. I've lost all my interest in Doudrop, like
son of a bitch.
So that immediately threw me off so much that it just
that she won. You were shocked that she won. Okay.
Yeah, I honestly thought we were going Bianca. I more thought we were going Liv again because by the way we've seemed like we've been going, it feels like we've been going the Bianca route with Liv. So I figured she was going to get one more, just like how Bianca got 3. I thought she was going to get 3. Because I'm so off Doudrop anymore.
Well, here's what I thought. What if Doudrop wins the title, then Bianca and Doudrop fight, Bianca wins the title, and then Liv and Bianca? I'm
with Marsh there. It just doesn't feel like big enough for Mania, really.
You don't think...
They haven't done enough to make Doudrop feel like her being at Mania feels like a big deal.
Yes. That's all I'm saying is for WrestleMania, you need fucking star power. And for Royal Rumble, you need that fervor, that sizzle of potential matchups, right? So Jeremy in Time is in the chat saying, plus it adds more to the story in the Women's Rumble. With both Liv and Bianca more than likely going into the Rumble, both fighting to get matches they believe they deserve, and Grim Reaper agreed with that. The idea is that Becky is such a star and has such power and has had rivalries with Liv and Bianca and said, I'm done with you guys. I don't want to face you anymore. You guys are too tough, is really what it comes off as. To have Doudrop potentially win the title, then you have a Rumble against a bunch of random people against someone who we barely know and has had one rivalry. It's not that Doudrop can't carry the match that would be WrestleMania quality. It's if you put Doudrop and Bianca on a billboard, does it draw the same attention as Becky fucking Lynch and fucking Bianca Belair's 2 or 3 or Bianca or Becky and Liv? The idea that you can go into the Rumble and be like, who's going to fucking win it? Because a lot of these women have stories with Becky. None of them have the story with Doudrop. That's what I mean. Like after Mania, absolutely Becky can drop the title at Mania and we could be off to the races and build a lot of people up to that. But to Mania, we need Becky with that title just to Mania to figure out who are we launching after that.
Yeah, Mania is your stopping point with Becky as champion, mostly.
Yeah. She's just too big of a star. And I think that you've got Bianca really close to that, but not enough to carry someone new like a Doudrop, especially if Doudrop's the champion.
I think just from a personal standpoint that Bianca is one of the only few women that can effectively wrestle Doudrop in the ring because of her size and strength. So I just feel like it's not going to be convincing to me that Becky wins unless she cheats, which that'll probably happen. And that feels a little bit like a cop-out. To be quite frank, I would be okay with Doudrop winning the title, and you know how they defend the title like the next Raw, and then Becky getting it back somehow. But I would be okay with Doudrop. I think that's how you get a character like Doudrop over, is by giving her the title.
I agree, but I think it has to happen either at Mania or after. I think Doudrop and Becky Lynch at Mania is bigger than Doudrop winning the title at Rumble.
Yeah.
Well, what if Doudrop wins the title at Rumble and then loses it like the following Monday night Raw to Becky again? Somehow, some way, she cheats, she gets it back, she gets a thing. And then you get the Bianca Becky thing that really hasn't been resolved whatsoever. And she keeps, I mean, like, how long can you say, oh, I beat her 24? We haven't wrestled her again. Like, they haven't had another title match since that, really. So it's like, oh, I don't know.
They
It's
had
kinda
one. I
slow.
forget which pay-per-view it was. What were you gonna say, Justin?
The thing is, it leaves Liv out there though,
Yeah.
because you know
I
she's
wouldn't be.
still trying.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking triple threat.
Yeah, I was about to say I wouldn't be surprised if we get Bianca, Liv, and Becky in a triple threat match.
Yeah.
Which could be great. And
we're having
then
a
you could
triple-
and then you could have Dewdrop looming over it saying whoever wins, I'm taking that title from you in a fucking month, so get ready. You know what I mean? Like, I could see all of that. But I don't see Becky not walking into Mania as champion, especially considering Becky Lynch has not lost a match since before WrestleMania 35. Like, that was 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So, like Grim Reaper says in the chat, Becky and Roman have some clout as champion. When they are both beat for their title, the moment needs to be massive. 100%.
Yes.
Whoever truly beats Becky Lynch clean in the middle is a bona fide, no doubt about it, motherfucker you don't mess with.
So you don't think they'll give Dewdrop that opportunity, even though it doesn't look like, in my opinion, that Becky can wrestle her in the ring.
Not yet.
I think that Rumble's not the moment to do it.
Yeah.
That's not to say it can't happen. I think that Mania is the moment to decrown, because then you also have Becky, who is theoretically champion from WrestleMania 35 to 38. Like, that. You know what I mean?
I do. I don't disagree with you guys. I just wonder. I feel like if you have it too long, it feels like it can be diminished a little bit too. I don't know.
Yes. But that's what I mean. Like, at Mania, Becky pretty much has to lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Beyond that, I'm like, it's starting to get borderline. I don't care.
Yeah, if it goes past Mania, it's dragging it out too much.
Anything past Mania has you really wondering, what are we doing and who are we trying to put over?
That's 9 months of her, like, you know.
Yeah.
You know. And I look, I like Becky and think she's great, but you know, I don't know. I'm the worst. I'm probably the worst example of what they should do because of how my thought process is. Sometimes I don't mind seeing change,
right?
And it feels like that's something they don't want to do in wrestling.
And
regularly.
sometimes we get caught up, even as fans, in quote what's best for business. So in our minds, WrestleMania has to be the big marquee match. And if you tell me you put Dewdrop versus Liv Morgan on a marquee, I'm like, is that best for business? But who the fuck am I? I'm a drunk on a podcast. But if you tell me you got Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan, you go, oh, this could make Liv Morgan. You know what I mean?
But I don't think Liv Morgan needs to get over. She should be champion now, in my opinion. She could be the champion. And nobody would be like, oh, I can't believe they gave it to Liv Morgan.
Correct.
And you know
but if they gave it to Liv Morgan,
the Bianca Dewdrop match that could for the number one contender.
It's bigger if you give it to her at Mania.
Yes. Can you acknowledge that if Liv Morgan won the title off of Becky Lynch on a 3-year winning streak at a WrestleMania is bigger than Dewdrop, who had the championship for 1 year leading into a Mania?
Okay, but Ref Marsh, they had that opportunity. They could have given us that on day one. And to me, they should have. And that would have made that pay-per-view nothing. Day one is a pay-per-view I will skip next year because they did nothing on there. I'll go skiing. Like, Roman didn't lose. Nope, nothing changed. Meaning, why would you waste your time watching it? You know what I'm saying?
Brock Lesnar stole the championship.
That was because COVID happened.
We'll have COVID next day one.
Fucking lucky, in my opinion, with COVID, because had they had that, they were gonna have Brock lose straight up to Roman. Okay, maybe he wins it and Roman gets it back. Okay, I don't know. I just felt like they got so lucky. Then we got that triple. It actually made the day one more exciting, to be honest.
I think so, yeah.
Because
I did, yeah.
I thought, well, before we started, I know exactly what's going to happen. Roman's going to win. Becky's going to win. You know, titles aren't going to change hands. RK Bro didn't even lose. Like, okay. Like, Alpha Academy could have won the tag team championship at day one. would have meant more. You know, I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, these Michael Cole was saying, and I was gonna write it the fuck down. Whatever they call
the premium live events.
Yeah, premium live event. There you go. Thank you. Premium live event. If nothing changes during the premium live event, and it's just a bigger show and it's longer, I don't understand. There's not any reason for me to watch.
I'll give you the. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
This is just another name for a pay-per-view now, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's like at a live event. It's not like they taped a live show, like a WWE live show where they're just like, yeah, there's no title changes that are going to happen. That's like when they do Student Network specials, like when they did Starrcade as a live show.
Oh, yeah.
It was an hour of nothing, pretty much.
I'll definitely give you, they could do more to make those premium live events mean more, but none of those things could be at the expense of making WrestleMania mean less. And that's what I'm saying, is that Becky Lynch walking into Mania undefeated for 3 years means more than Doudrop going in after being champion for 3 months.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but the fact that she's been champion that long, part of which she was pregnant, which to me, whatever, that shouldn't count. Yeah. But make a baby, big deal. Fucking every creature on the planet can do it. Like some can do it without the help of, you know, their male counterpart. They're like reproduce on their own. They call it asexual. But I just like, for me, like I just like, you have these big events, give us big stories and big results. It does not take away from WrestleMania, because then you're like, oh my God, Becky can get her title back, or Becky doesn't have to be a part of the title picture at all. Because what did they do before Becky was in the wrestling? They had somebody else and they were the champion and they lost it or won it. I mean, that the thing is, those things need to,
that's the whole thing that Becky Lynch has been doing, is she's been putting over more people that you least expect to be a champion.
I get that, and I understand that, and I think Bishop said the same thing. I just feel like, it's not specifically with her. It's like everything. Like, we knew we weren't going to see anything impactful at day one. The Rumble's exciting to me, quite frankly, because I want to see who comes out. But if Charlotte wins a Rumble, I don't know, guys. I think
she already did it once.
I think the Rumble's going to be used to find out Charlotte's opponent, and that's pretty much it.
I was thinking it was going to be used to find Becky's. Oh, fuck, I just dropped it, what I was thinking. Let me hit the chat real fast, though. We have TW Takes Bishop coming in and saying, what's up, drinking buddies? Little does he know we've been shouting him out here and there all episode long. He's going to love the new shop. If you go to wrestlingonrocks.com/shop, you can, or not /shop, you go to click the shop link. You can check out all the new stuff. Greenper says, all those stickers right there.
Terrible. I did put one up on the door. I don't know if you guys can see. I have a door that has
stickers.
Yeah, it's got all stickers. There's one on the door. I ordered a Wrestling on the Rocks, the one that you had a sticker for, the new design with that you just showed.
Sponsored, not sponsored.
Sponsored, not sponsored. I got one of those for the door. Because you had a sticker in there. I was like, oh, I got to get one. So
yeah, I want to get the pint glasses, if I'm being honest, but I'm just like,
I did buy a pint glass. I bought a pint glass so I could have a official Wrestling on the Rocks pint glass for the show.
Yep. Greenper says, do you think Bianca could win 2 Rumbles in a row? It's been done before, but very rare. Yeah, I think Stone Cold has. I think you could pull that off with Bianca for sure. Of all characters right now, she's believable. Oh, what I was gonna say, you said that before Becky, there were other women's wrestlers who carried divisions for sure, but none of any single women's wrestler historically before Becky was able to get a story over enough to main event WrestleMania. And that's what Becky did, and Becky did alone. Between Becky and Ronda, Becky is a different level star. She just is.
Real quick, I wanted to ask you guys about that because I didn't see it. And I guess I could go back and watch it because I have all this stuff at my fingertips with Peacock. But does it really diminish the title if they don't have this long stretch in between of holding it?
No, but does it diminish it in comparison? we have the ability to versus what we are going to do, right? You're on the cusp of being able to say 3 years never defeated or 3 months barely won it. It's not that if the title had changed hands before him in the middle, 100%, it wouldn't diminish it as much. It only diminishes it in that we're at that moment.
I know what I wanted to ask you, because WrestleMania is 2 nights, right? And you said that Becky, WrestleMania is now 2 nights. Is that new to this year?
The last 2 years did it.
Okay, so when you say she main evented, did she main event the second day or did she main event the first?
She main evented before the 2-year split, the 2-day split. Yeah. She main evented when it was an 8-hour long program.
When it was just an 8-hour pay-per-view. Now I know why they split it. Good God.
Yeah.
Speaking along, we're 3 hours into the show.
It's been so much more beneficial as a 2-night thing, because then you actually get the winner of the Rumble, quote unquote, main eventing WrestleMania.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the chat as well, Jeremy in Time says, we get a Lex Luger Bret Hart finish to the Women's Rumble leading to a triple threat match. That was a match a long time ago, Beard, where Luger and Bret had their feet tied. They fell down, so their feet hit at the same time, so they were both the winner. I could see them doing that with Liv and Bianca, because I actually think that Liv and Bianca are that level.
That's so funny, because Lex Luger was, like, in my opinion, kind of like a middling, borderline good wrestler. And Bret Hart, you could argue, is one of the greatest of all time. So,
and that was the argument. The idea was going into it, because Bruce Prichard talked about it on this podcast. The idea going into it is, how do we ensure that they both do that? And they go, well, Bret Hart's the other one.
Inventive writing, though, then, too, right? I just, sometimes I feel like, don't be afraid to go back with what worked, too, right? Like, go back. Who cares if people are like, oh, it's the same shit. Yeah, it can be everything's the same shit. Everybody ripped off Shakespeare and everybody's this and that. Just like, there's new and inventive ways to do it. And when the cast has changed, so like, I don't know if you guys have been able to watch the Book of Boba Fett. People are like, oh, it's High Plains Drifter, it's this, it's that, they're borrowing from all this stuff. I said, just shut the fuck up and enjoy the fucking show. It's the best goddamn thing we've ever seen since Star Wars. I had to suffer through fucking Jar Jar Binks to get to this. You know, like, this is incredible. Mandalorian, same fucking thing. So I'm just like, give me that good storyline, and, you know, the wrestling will take care of itself. I think the fans are so much smarter nowadays, right? You know, we have the social media and stuff. We get all this other stuff. We know about all the stuff outside of the wrestling industry, where years and years and years and years, they kept that shit a secret, right? Like, it was all, no, it's real. What are you talking about? It's not scripted. Well, of course it is. You know, It's not fake either. They're real athletes. They're doing real fucking incredible things in the ring. And we get that. But to me, the storyline can't be secondary or tertiary, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But if we did a clever Rumble finish and I had the first ever finish of 2 people and had a Liv and Bianca against a Becky, that seems to me to be, that'd be a huge one, because at the same time, Becky's only been able to beat Becky and Liv by cheating. Even the moment, remember, I don't know if you remember this, Justin, but we talked about it on episode 1. You weren't on at the time, but I assume that you never miss an episode. The idea of the Oblivion into the manhandle slam was massive. And we talked about how much of a bitch it was that Becky couldn't get her feet up on the ropes, but you could see her trying. The one thing someone showed me in a replay was Becky fucking hit Liv in the eyes before, in the Oblivion. She goes up, she fucking hits her in the eyes, and the manhandle slams her. So she cheated even in the moment we thought she didn't quite cheat enough.
It just was too quick after Liv landed like her big move. That was my big thing. It was, and they just make that match a minute longer. I have no complaints. And we talked about this last show or a couple shows ago. I got no problem with Becky winning that. I just would have liked to seen Liv pulled off like 5 minutes of offensive shit, and then Becky did one thing, and I know she was supposed to have her feet on the rope and the eye poke or whatever, but if the eye poke isn't super obvious, Marsh, then it isn't. If it wasn't super obvious to us, it probably wasn't super obvious to the people there.
Yes.
I think there was the
camera angle was way off.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It
fucking know it.
It turned out either way. She had to cheat to win, and that was what they wanted to continue the story with Liv for.
But it didn't happen. We didn't get that. Really, that was lost in translation big time.
Sure, but the attempt to consistently cheat was there, which is nice. I'm just saying Becky's willing to put people over. I don't know, anything else that you wanted to hit on? I feel like we've nailed a lot of it.
No, that was the last thing on my list.
I just wanted to say as a quick shout out, Seth and Big E was a fucking tremendous match.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, I thought it was an incredible SmackDown.
Raw. Yeah.
Raw. Yeah.
I saw some people, because I get Raw after it airs on the East Coast, on West Coast, I saw a lot of people going back and forth where it was really it seemed divisive. Like weirdly divisive, where I saw a lot of people saying worst Raw in a long time. This segment is absolute garbage. This is total shit. And then I saw some people like, I'm really enjoying this Raw. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a Raw like this. And then when I watched it, I was like, yeah, what was wrong with it? Like there was a 24/7 segment in there with Dana Brooke and Reggie that was goofy, that some people were shitting on, but also like, what did you want from a 24/7 segment? That was fine.
I liked it. I liked it because they didn't have to do the parkour stuff. They still could have some fun, and they still give a little bit of airtime to those characters, so you don't completely forget they exist. Like, the people that are complaining about this Raw are people that don't like anything, and they're just going to complain to complain. I'm serious. We become a fucking nation of critics. Oh, this. Okay, well, you do something, and when they do, if you do. I don't think a lot of people appreciate what it is to create. Now, I will be critical of because we're talking about it in a format, but I don't want the moment it becomes, there's nothing we like. Why are we doing a show about it? Why are we watching it? I will tell you, the moment I don't like it, I'm just going to stop watching again. That's just the way it is. Yeah. And I loved it. If they put that sort of Raw into every, show going forward, and the writing is good and the stories are good and blah blah blah, it's gonna be great.
Like honestly, I think of our show, hopefully it comes across as a love letter to what we've been seeing all week. We love so much of stuff that, to me, as weird as it sounds, I feel like the shit talk is like a sprinkle on top. We put a little turd on the top of it. Like, we're not going to not acknowledge that some things didn't hit, or this wasn't quite right, or we didn't like this one thing. But the overwhelmingness of it all is a Sunday of, we loved this because of that. We loved this because of that. This might not have seemed really pleasing at first, but when we took a step back, we went, oh, wait, that's actually really poetic in a way. You know what I mean? Like,
man, I love it. Yeah. I don't know much. There wasn't much they couldn't have done to make that better. I mean, quite frankly, like you said, you would have liked to seen the Gable Otis storyline be like, give us some of that information maybe right before they win the title or whatever. It would have been cool to have that. I don't know. Honestly, I wasn't so here's the thing. This is when I said I'm sad the RK Bro might be coming to an end, but here's how I knew it was okay. I really wasn't sad when they lost. I was like, oh, Otis won. I was like, okay. Like I was like, so you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's when Like, for me, I was like, And
how fucking tremendous. They did so much in that match. At the finish, I was sitting there almost like jaw open, and producer lady is like, what's wrong? And I was like, no, this is beautiful. Not only did Randy Orton put over Otis as being the strong, massive beast, but they also protected Matt Riddle in the same finish, so that we leave open Riddle versus Orton at Mania. Which, imagine that as a first, second, or third match.
But
Riddle versus
do we even need that? I don't even understand.
I need it.
You need it?
I need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those two dudes are so fucking good.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I don't want to see them wrestle against each other ever or whatever, but I don't.
Okay.
I will say this. I think there is something wrong in the storytelling that every time we end a relationship, they have to fight. I don't think that it doesn't have to happen. And in this case, I would be 1,000,000% behind them just dissolving it, Orton doing his thing, and then yes, we can have them wrestle at some point in a big event, but I don't even think it needs to feed from them not be. And I'll tell you why they should go this route. Because it wasn't Riddle's fault they lost. We don't need, there needs to be no blame. When they wrestle, it's just about that. Good wrestling. We don't, here I am, I'm going to fucking totally contradict myself. I don't care about the storyline between the two of them. I don't, because we got to see a lot of good quality we got to see, I don't need to see, and I think the big reason why I don't want to see it, and I'll tell you, tell me if I'm wrong or not, but legitimately, because of how much we have witnessed as fans, Randy Orton enjoying that experience, the RK Bro, and him getting to have a little bit of fun, it doesn't have to end ugly. It doesn't have to be, I'm the apex predator, blah, blah, blah. We don't need it. We don't have to have it. They can just cease to exist. They're already not tag team champs. They can give us a storyline why they separated. We don't have to see anything in ring. There's plenty of matches I'd love to see Riddle in. There's plenty of matches I'd love to see Randy Orton in. I wouldn't mind them wrestling each other, but I don't need to see them wrestle each other to dissolve the RK Bro. And quite frankly, guys, I'm willing to bet if we look at the merch sales, RK Bro, the WWE's not done with RK Bro, because don't you notice every show I see more RK Bro shirts. You know what? RK Bro is starting to remind me of very early, like Stone Cold and D-Generation X and stuff. So every time I look in the crowd, I'm like, oh, there's an RK Bro. Oh, lots of RK Bro shirts, you know? So I bet you that they are outselling the head of the table, because I think it's better than him anyway.
I think the story they've been telling, I think it's going to I think it just needs to and deserves to culminate in a match.
And I will say that strictly from a best for business standpoint, like dumbasses like me say, I do think the idea of Riddle Orton is a marquee match that you would put on an event like WrestleMania. If you're trying to get me to spend $3,000 on a fucking WrestleMania ticket, and you tell me Riddle and Orton are on there and Becky versus Liv and Bianca are on there, I have a hard time saying no. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
But at the same time, I totally think that there's a poetry to ending a tag team without a rivalry. I just think that we have enough time that we could make it happen in a cool way. And two talents like that, and Randy Orton obviously willing to elevate others, I think if they go, I think Orton loses. And I think he makes...
You know what? I don't disagree with that. How about this, though? We don't see the end of RK Bro at WrestleMania. We don't even see it this year. We see, like, I would rather see RK Bro wrestle the Usos.
Ooh.
What about that? I mean, like, RK Bro is a fucking cash cow. Like,
yeah.
if that coupling is going to make money as long as they are together. Mm-hmm. Okay, you don't have to be a genius to see that. So,
yeah.
Hey, by the way, I think you are 100% right, and we're going to see what you and Justin both said. But I am advocating for the opposite because we've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
We've seen alt, rock, and sock, all these. It doesn't matter. So yeah. I'm saying you can use that.
Matter.
Right, but go against the grain and change. That's how you keep the audience guessing. Like,
yes.
let them survive longer, because they're really, we know Randy and him are different, and they're not the same. One's a pot smoking hippie surfer dude, and one's like a wrestling legend. His dad was a legend, blah, blah, blah. And he is like, the elder state, he's the real Sami Zayn, right? I mean,
yeah,
everybody agrees. The elder statesman of wrestling right now. since the Undertaker is gone.
You don't always have to go the obvious route, for sure.
Is Orton. Yeah, just change it up and give us the tag. Like, will you still pay $3,000 if you see the Usos versus RK Bro? I would.
Yes.
I
Yes, I would.
$3,000, but
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a great point too, is that I'm thinking WrestleMania marquee stuff, but at the same time, everything you just said there, yep, I'm on board for that, all of that. The idea of also keep them guessing, do something different.
Yeah.
There is a certain point where, as long-term wrestling fans, we get locked into what we're used to seeing. And I think it's part of the issue I have with wrestling fandoms. What we've recently discovered from Dexter fandoms is this resume of fanship, I'll call it, where it says, well, I've been watching for this long and spent this much money, therefore my opinion's better than others and I'm more qualified to believe I like something or not, which is a weirdness that we fall into. So I agree with you, that freshness of like, yeah, absolutely, that's where it looks like we're going, which is exactly why we shouldn't go that way. And I will say that there's a balance. There's 100% balance, because there's also been in the history of wrestling different for different sake, change for change sake, which didn't go well. I think there's a fine line balance, and I think that RK Bro could be something that could walk that line really well. Really well.
Ask any of the hardcore wrestling fans, are they sick of RK Bro? And yes, you're going to get a few yays, but really that shit can go on for a while. Almost all those wacky odd, it's basically the Odd Couple, right? Yeah. Again, ripped from the movies and stuff. A lot of those end way shorter than most of us like to see. Rock'em Sock'em could have Rock and Sock could have gone another month or two or 9, and no one would have cared. They loved it, and I get it, but they don't ever go the route we think they're, that they never. It almost always, like I told you, I would have guessed 100% day one, and that should not be the case. I should have no idea what's going to happen on an event like that. Yeah. And yes, I know it's not WrestleMania, but a title can change hands. Yeah. Why? I'll be honest with you guys. Why didn't Al? I think I said this earlier tonight. Why couldn't you have those guys win it at day one?
Yeah, it'd been great.
And then Justin could have kept their. Oh, they want to get their titles back. We could have had that up until WrestleMania.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Getting your title back is a whole other story. Justin, anything that we're missing here that you want to throw in there?
No, not that I can really think of. I'm somebody who really likes RK Bro, and I really don't want to see them end it all. Like, I could see them going on longer, but
you're a hardcore fan.
Yeah, if they feel like it's going to be a big, like, marquee Mania thing, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger on it.
I will say I haven't been the biggest RK Bro fan, but there's definitely part of me that thinks like there's still meat on the table here. You know what I mean? Like, just because I'm also at least not ridiculous enough to not understand that some things aren't for everybody. Just because I haven't been the biggest fan of Matt Riddle doesn't mean that I don't realize it's connecting with a ton of people. So for me to see them do this, I go, well, that gives us plenty of time, right? Because if they are breaking up now, that gives us almost 3 months of build to get to a cool place where we could have a believable Orton Riddle match. But at the same time, I don't feel like they've beaten this horse to death. I feel like there's definitely meat on the table. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Quick question. You said you're not a big fan of Matt Riddle, the character, but in ring, you like what he does in ring, right? Like, you're a huge fan of that.
Yes, I don't like Harold and Kumar.
But he is playing both Harold and Kumar because they're both slap. I mean, that's the Odd Couple stoners.
Yeah,
one is less in Harold and Kumar, but I understand that. But I'll just say this: do you see that character? I mean, he has to play that character. Like, you can't change that character now. It's just like John Cena said. Him and Vince got to the point they're like, this is a bridge too far. We can't do heel. It's like Stone Cold said when they tried to make him heel when he couldn't actually wrestle in the ring anymore. He goes, it didn't fucking matter because everybody loved him, even though he was on Vince's side. They're all like, we don't care. He's not a heel. You're not going to let him.
Especially in Texas. They tried to do the heel turn in Texas, and I was like, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. They should have
What
done
do
it.
you think's going to happen here?
Yeah,
The whole
they
crowd's all like, we hear you, but we're doing our thing.
What?
Yeah. What? Yeah. 100%. I'm not a big fan of stoner humor. The only stoner film I've ever liked was Half Baked. And I think there's a lot more to that movie than stoner humor. But I haven't been a big fan of to be honest, as much as I respect Cheech and Chong, I haven't enjoyed a single film they ever did. I'm not a big fan of that kind of humor, and that's what Riddle brings, which is fine. Did you ever see
the Corsican Brothers? Did you ever see the Corsican Brothers? That was a Cheech and Chong movie. It was not a stoner movie. That's hilarious. You should watch that. That's very much on the Esca, like Monty Python. It's like medieval. One of the brothers is being tortured. The other one feels it. It's really funny. It's not a stoner movie. Yeah.
Text it to me. Text it to me. I'll watch it this weekend.
Yeah, I'll IMDb. I'll text it to you. The Corsican Brothers. But it's so funny. It's so funny that you brought up Half Baked. I think it's the greatest way to end the show. Bob Saget said in an interview that his line is very quotable from that movie, and he goes, "These guys will come up when I got my daughters. Hey, you ever suck dick for marijuana?" He's like, "Dude, I'm with my kids." But literally, the line that Bob Saget is known for is the
suck dick for weed.
Dave Chappelle is saying it's a problem, and he goes, and then Kadeem Hardison goes, "I seen him do it. I seen him." Like Kadeem Hardison, another really funny comedian, chimes in and says, he talked about sucking dick for crack. So anyway, it's funny. It's a microcosm of someone's career summed up in one sentence. He was much more than that. He was a funny guy and an incredible person, it sounds like. So I had a great show, guys. It was fun. Thank you so much.
100%. JustinTime thrown out there that you could do Becky Lynch with Liv and Bianca one night before the other, like how Yoko did with Brett and Lex. 100%. Bishop, not a fan of Arcade Bro. I think that Sports Beard is correct here. A little bit of an homage to Bob Saget. A lot of love out to anybody who watches what we watch and likes what we like and hates what we like. As long as you're here to have the conversation, to have the drink, because it's not about what you're drinking, it's who you're drinking with. And we're just happy that once a week you make us your drinking buddies and have a good time with us right here in the dive bar of the IWC. Justin, tell people about the In Time Wrestling Podcast.
It's just me and my brother talking wrestling. It's mainly weekly reviews.
Boo! Just kidding.
We're
joking.
I'm debating. Like I said, like I told Bishop, I'm gonna maybe debate on adding some more stuff in there. Like you'll probably see some reviews of like other shows that we haven't, that you would least expect covered. Like you might see a GCW show on there. I might do an Impact one next time when they do the pay-per-view. I'll do it by myself if I have to.
No, that's cool.
I would say, if nothing else, keep stepping. Like Dustin Rhodes said, his father Dusty said it. Just keep stepping.
Keep stepping.
Yeah,
who doesn't
keep stepping, baby.
If you don't love Dusty Rhodes, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Keep stepping, baby. Just keep stepping. Because at the end of the day, like, if your podcast every week is about Raw and SmackDown or AEW and NXT, or you only want to review Raw, or there's people out there who are doing ones where all they do is go back and rewatch pay-per-views of the 90s.
Yep.
Whatever you feel like talking about for a while, just talk about it and put it out there. Because at the end of the day, if you love it, your love for anything is infectious. Micah Pellegrina coming through the chat at the end says, well, I showed up as advertised. 100% motherfuckers toxic Micah from the D-Void podcast coming through just to shit on us at the end. I'm just kidding. But check him out too. Dude, I mean, that's the other thing, right? Devoid podcast. Look at the wide variety of stuff that they're putting out there. all I can say, Justin, is what you did so far is you crossed that first line in Mario Kart. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
You got going. Just hit those fucking stars, slam those blue shells, do what you're feeling, and go with your heart, and people will follow. Beard, what are you going to say?
Oh, I just was questioning about Justin's podcast. Is it audio only?
Yes.
Okay, and then what platforms is it available on?
Right now, I'm trying to figure out how in the world I can get it on Apple, so I can get it on like Overcast and stuff. But right now, it's on Spotify,
Okay.
Pocket Cast. You can find it on Antenna Pod. What is it? Radio Public.
You're on Google? Google Play?
Yes.
Good.
Just got
That's
it on
an easy
Google,
one.
so I got it on Google Podcast. So if you download that, you can find it there.
Apple Podcast takes like 2 weeks. We did for the Dexter podcast. We applied for Apple Podcast, and we only got approved on Apple Podcast the night before we put out the last episode. So it takes a couple weeks. Micah in the chat says, I'm trying to get Sports Beard on In Kayfabe now, shooting my shot. I think you should get him. I think the other thing, though, if I'm being honest, be particular, because Sports Beard doesn't have a deep wrestling knowledge, so bring him stuff you can really dig into. Maybe you can find something like a little sports related, something you can really get into. Bishop says, just takes time. Anchor does a bit to distribute for sure. But yeah, guys, find JustinTime 211 on Twitter. Give him a follow, the like, the subscribe. Do the same for us. Check out In Time Wrestling Podcast and find this ever evolving project of a man who loves wrestling and just talking about it. What is there more to love? That's the whole nature of this dive bar of the IWC, to get a bunch of like-minded weirdos to get into one spot and drink and talk wrestling. At Beard Sports over there, knocking it out of the park with his tweets every single day about whatever's happening in sports.
Yeah, did you guys see Kodak Black looking like he had sex with a woman at a hockey game? That was fun. It was a blowout. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God.
Give him a follow. We're at WOTR the show. I am at Ref Marsh, and we are the dive bar of the IWC, and that is Last Call. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
Cheers. Always forget we got to talk. It's a podcast.
Hey, producer lady here. Thanks for tuning in to Drink by following and putting the I in subscribe on Twitch. Or subscribe and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. Cheers!
I would never have a drink with wrestling.